Hello and welcome to the Spike Colony podcast. I am here with the weathered wayfarer himself, Andy Levine, and also joined by my regular co-host, Michael J. I, of course, am Lanny Huang, and Andy also 3-0'd League this week. So top four at Sacred Torch, 3-0. You weren't at our Churrascaria meet night, which normally predates a good...
Oh, yeah, I was out of town for a while.
Yeah, a good... the rule being you go out for Brazilian all-you-can-eat grill with Mike, and you top 8 the next day. You didn't do that, but you did
top 8 a Pro Tour, so I don't know how that applies to League.
It probably means you 3-0 League, right?
Yeah. So
you have to 3-0, like, you know, you need 11 wins to top 8 a Pro Tour, so you get a 3-0 4 leagues.
I shit you not, like, Team Target brought this Dutch guy, I didn't know who he was, to like Churrascaria in like 2004. And I just didn't know who he was, and I was telling him he should have Somber Hoverguard in his affinity deck, and he didn't have Somber Hoverguard in his affinity deck, and it was Jelger Wiegersma, and I just didn't know who he was. He obviously like top 4 that Affinity Pro Tour that weekend. Like, just like, wait, Jelger, you need some shine. Take a stop into New York.
I feel like going to a Brazilian steakhouse with definitely Michael J, but Magic players in general is stressful because I feel like you're all optimizing on what meats to get.
Okay, so
and, like,
I guess we should have a quick detour through this. So this I actually didn't tell Mike. So me, Mike, D-Tao, and SWB went to Fogo de Chao on Monday at the invitation of D-Tao. He was like, you know, just wanted a good hang, and so we went and had the good hang, and it was myself and SWB's first time there.
They were virgins of all you can eat.
Yeah. And so I did a little bit of research in that I like Googled. I'm like, okay, well, what's the move at Fogo?
Now this story sucks. You did research? Come on, man.
So I was just like, okay, well, what's the move at Fogo? Like, what am I supposed to do? And they basically gave me the same advice that Mike gave when we sat down, which was like, do not eat anything that isn't the meat.
Isn't on a sword.
Like, that doesn't come, like, that isn't like delivered, because they have a salad bar, they have sides, they have polenta, they have various starchy carby kinds of things,
which I think are delicious. I think if you're the kind of person who eats a carbohydrate.
But Andy has pointed out exactly the truth, which is that optimizing for calories from protein was just like Mike's absolute goal, which is of course aided and abetted by the fact that 6 out of 7 days a week you're keto.
Not in the Hamptons.
SWB, okay, fair enough.
SWB, it's just nonstop. I mean, I'm just sneaking candy out of the cupboard. Don't tell anybody.
I mean, it's summertime. What can you say? But SWB is Whole Foods type situation, and doesn't eat any,
not the brand, like the
diet, and doesn't eat gluten to begin with. But myself, I was like, I need one of my things is like I need acid. I need something acidic to go along with like a heavy fatty steak situation. However, the thing that I was interested in optimizing for was the variety of steak that I would be like filling my plate with, because not all steak is created equal. The ribeye is the most expensive steak that you can get out of a cow. And so if they come by with just some top sirloin or you know, whatever fillet, or of course the picanha, which they're famous for.
Picanha is the best thing that they serve.
I don't care about the value. The picanha is the best tasting thing.
That's interesting. I mean,
the chicken's pretty good too, and it's definitely not the best value, but it tastes good.
Well, the chicken thigh, that's a tricky one because that I think
didn't
that
eat chicken.
So
the funniest thing is all night SWB is just like, I wish someone had told me not to eat this salad, but he said it like 20 times. because I had told him not to eat the salad. I'd never been here before. I wish somebody told me not to eat the salad.
Yeah. Despite it being the first thing when you sat down, and like SWB comes back, and you're just like, what is that? He's got some broccoli on his plate. You're just like, broccoli? Are you kidding me? You're like, which by the way is probably like 8 calories. Like that was my thought. It was just like,
it consumes volume in your core.
It really. I mean, so does water. Like what are you gonna do? Like I a little bit.
I mean, Michael J would probably not drink water.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Like I had a little.
Here's a funny story. Once I went to Katz's with car acrobatic team, and like Aaron Forsyth couldn't finish his Katz's sandwich, so I ate the second half. And Andrew Cunha was a vegetarian.
So you ate his too.
He just didn't order any.
Yeah, of course.
And they still top 4'd the Pro Tour.
Fair enough.
2 days later.
So I really enjoyed my Fogo de Chao experience. I was assured that Plataforma was even better.
That's like the original legend. That's the New York legend that made D-Town move to New York.
I did eventually. I had both ribeye and picanha, and like my first ribeye was better than my picanha. But the thing was, I was just like, wait, how does this work? Is it all you can eat? Can I just be like, can you just bring me just ribeye? And Mike was like, the last time I went to a Brazilian steakhouse, they didn't even have ribeye.
No, it was there. It was the actual place we were at.
Oh, he's like, the last time I went to Fogo, they didn't have ribeye. And I was like,
Fogo we were, which is across the street from my house.
Right. And I was just like, how can they not? They have it on the menu. The menu is written. It's just like all you can eat, picanha, ribeye, various, but they list out the all you can eat menu. And I realized about halfway in, I was just like, wait, the rotation is like mostly the other meats, and the ribeye only comes around once an hour.
But you can ask for whatever you want. That's what I told you.
But when I asked for the ribeye for the second time, they just brought out the same ribeye from before.
Yeah, I told you if it doesn't
go, that had like dwindled, right? So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think that if I sat down for just a $70 steak dinner, like if I just spent $70 on, some Wagyu or a ribeye or some dry aged thing at like
Where are you getting a Wagyu for $70? Is this like a 2-ounce piece?
I mean, it can be, and that's fine. But, or maybe it doesn't have to be like A5, etc. It's always like, it's funny because like we never talk about the other letters of Wagyu, but in any case, it's like always A5. I was like, can I like what's
I've never had an A5.
What's C7 Wagyu like? Is it still pretty good?
Well, 5 is the highest, right?
What's that?
5 is the highest.
Okay, so
A5 is the highest Wagyu.
What about a B2, like a B2 bomber Wagyu? Like probably.
I forget what it was. One of them is like, I think something about like there are two different things about marbling and like the size of the cow.
Yeah.
Like I'll take an A3. Country it's from. Right?
I'm just saying,
or those are only from Japan.
I'm just saying, like a good old like B tier Wagyu probably gets the job done for $70. But you can get like a dry age, you can get like a dry age ribeye for about $70 from a few places. You can get it for less. It'd be like a dry age ribeye for $2, honestly, or like a porterhouse.
It's the experience.
The experience. No. I mean,
going with your friends minus Andy Levine, who was invited and chose not to come.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he chose. Yeah.
Because just to be fair, all of us like live like really nearby, except for you, Andy.
Yeah.
All of us are like walking distance from this restaurant.
I took a city bike. Oh no, I took what did I do?
A city bike from Queens?
So I had to take either public transit or my car. Yeah, I think I took my car, and the reason was my moped got broken into, which is weird because there's no in of a moped, but you'd be surprised. They took the front panel off of my moped, and I can't tell what they did to it. Like I literally wasn't able to diagnose it. Like I opened the front panel, and then it just like kind of doesn't work right now. So that's why I had to take the car.
That really sucks.
Or no, I took a train. I took the F train. Yeah, that's what I did. I took the F train, I took the C train to the L, and then I took a bike home. So in conclusion, Fogo de Chao, A+, but obviously S tier is the Hangs that Andy Levine, I cannot emphasize enough, was not a part of.
This was really the part that was the worst. Is that they made me take a picture of the other three of them. We were all in the top 16 of Sacred Torch. Like, oh man, if Andy were here, we could just take a picture of like 4 fuckers who were in the top 8. And then Laney was just like, wait, Mike, why don't you just take a picture of 3 fuckers who were in the top 16? You missed that, Andy, but now we've shared it with the entire Spike Colony universe.
Yeah. But, you know, Andy was a part of the top 4 of the Sacred Sword Showdown with none other than Weathered Wayfarer, a card which he has never gone on record as saying that he disliked. It was a distortion
because I don't dislike it.
It was distortion due to the fact that he simply did not respect it across the battlefield.
He just ignores it whenever his opponent has it. You might imagine that he doesn't respect the card.
Yeah, his Almighty Tide deck, which he's got a 3-0 with. I don't know what we should talk about. I don't know if we should talk about Terradon. Like I guess I would like. I want to hear
about a tournament that was yesterday.
No. I want to talk about. I mean, Andy shared briefly, but he was like super tired. I want now that it's been a few weeks, and I have obviously just nonstop just been shitting on this deck. So I think the first question for Andy is, what do you think of Terradon? Like, what do you think that there's something that people don't talk about it that makes the deck good? Do you think that they're like, you know, what's the secret sauce? Like, what's the perspective?
Well, start off with, I think I would have done better in the tournament if I played Tide Control.
Better than top 4? Better than top 4 Chop the Money? And you were 1 mistake away from finals?
No, I don't necessarily win if I don't make that mistake.
That's true. He doesn't, but you're obviously in a better position.
Yeah, but he kegs away the Weathered Wayfarer after I get 1 activation out of it.
But who cares? Nobody respects Weathered Wayfarer, least of all you.
But so I don't know. Terradon seems like Meddling Mage just always seems to be pretty good, and it feels like everything in pre-modern is just like Mana Denial's good and beat down with creatures. Or maybe that's just every deck that I play.
This is a hot take. You are saying that Tide Control and Terradon are the same deck.
And Contamination Control.
Okay, that's actually the sauce.
I'll just Mana Denial and beat down with 2/2s.
That's
it's the same 2/2s in some cases.
All right, so
like, you know, Contamination and Tide Control.
Or both factories.
But
you get some zombies. Meddling Mages mixed in.
I think I like this perspective because it acknowledges something about Terradon which I simply like have never really seen for myself, which is the idea that it could simply not be a mid-range deck, and that it actually is a deck with like some sort of narrative and some sort of like thing going for it, that even though its only means of controlling the cards it draws is via Sylvan Library, that the
Weather Wayfarer.
Give me a break,
dude. The Wayfarer line. If you go like Mox Weathered Wayfarer, there's some decks that just lose on the spot. You just wasteland them 4 times. They just don't do anything the whole game.
This is only true against decks that that people like have had in the box from like 2023, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna pull this out and see how this does. Like, even our Replenish decks are just playing.
Like a lot of basics. Yeah.
They're playing 4 Flooded Strand and then like 7 islands and 5 plains. That's 16 basic.
Yeah, then you port them instead.
Right, and then so you port them. If they frantic search, and then they can just kind of drop an Ancient Tomb and then clown on you. But that's neither here nor there.
But they're cutting frantic search.
I would just point out
they are cutting frantic search. Yeah,
I would point out that even Rich Shea, I don't know if I want to use the word respects Terradon, but he says that Weathered Wayfarer is just the land tax replacement.
Well,
so he did say that.
I'm actually super on board with the idea that the deck gets to play cards from 4 colors thanks to 4 Gemstone Mine and 4 Mox Diamond, and like 4 Gemstone Mine plus 4 Mox Diamond means that you're playing Weathered Wayfarer, and like. It's in the Travis
Ruins,
yeah, exactly.
Grove,
big fans of the Lanny Huang history may remember that Gemstone Mine, Lairs, Mox Diamonds, and Undiscovered Paradise were the cornerstone of my approach to Parfait, which was to play cards of many colors. Not to say that Rich didn't play cards of many colors, but that I took that one step further maybe, and I just had a couple blue cards and red cards in there.
Sided in duress, as I recall.
No, a quick refresher, the Parfait deck didn't have duress, and the duress breakthrough came with Mark in the European champs. He played 2 main and 1 side, and I just went to 3 main 1 side because I was just like, duress is excellent in Parfait. Duress Armageddon is of course nuts, but I also had Fire Ice. The deck had always splashed a engineered play because it was an Enlightened Tutor deck. Oh man, I miss those days. In any case,
I'm Terrageddon. I think I feel like I just play every deck like a control deck.
Yeah.
It's just how I play. And I definitely play Terrageddon more like a control deck. And I think it has a lot of really good control
Did you
elements.
listen to the episode where it was revealed that Lanny doesn't understand control? I don't know if it's
probably
2 years if he's actually come to understand control or not.
If it was 2 years ago, probably not.
No, I've gone even farther away. Like I played 1 match of Andy Vollmer's Landstill deck. I looked at it and I was just
tap out every turn.
And I'm just like, I was like, wait, this deck has 32 drops. And I was like, what do you do on the odd numbered turns? you just
come into play tapped land.
You just lose a mana.
Tower.
Yeah,
I just Coastal Tower. And
he was
Glacier.
playing 1 or 2 Coastal Tower in his list. He just didn't even. Yeah, I Thawing Glaciers is the other option, right?
This is hilarious for me because Lanny thinks that the advantage of going first in Magic is just that you get 1 more mana than the opponent. So it must be completely foreign to him, a deck that doesn't tap its mana.
Yeah.
It's just the whole point of going first is to tap 1 more mana than them.
It's not tapping 1 more mana. It is tapping 1 times the amount of turns in the game. And if you win on that turn, if you win on turn 5, then you will have spent 9 more mana than your opponent.
Yeah, but
you're Lanny, going to have spent plus 9.
What if you just didn't tap any mana?
I don't understand. I would just be like, no, this is how it works. On turn 1, you play Portent. On turn 2, you play either Impulse or Counterspell. On turn 3, things get a little hairy, but you kind of can opt, or maybe you cast a Daze on turn 2, so then you just play your second land again, and then you do the same thing, or then you just cast Gush, or then you Mox Diamond into 4, so you can play 2/2 drops. There's a lot of options here on turn 3. I agree that turn 3 is awkward for many decks, but the point is spend all your mana. Control decks, Coastal Tower tapped. What have you got? Oh, Goblin Lackey.
Maybe this is your unlough.
Plowshares the Goblin Lackey. Float another mana.
I've definitely noticed when we've played or watched each other play is I definitely do I'm fine extending the game a lot more than Lanny is.
Yeah. This is
when we were playing Cube. I don't know who was right on this one, but I was just I'm just going to attack in the Abyss the person. I'm going to Raging Ravine attack every turn because it's the Abyssing my opponent. And you were like, oh, you should just Splitter Twin combo right now because you haven't. And I was like, I don't need to do it now.
Yeah,
I'm waiting on board.
I agree with Andy.
It was an interesting spot. The heuristic that I was relying on is essentially if you have a spell in hand, the fact that it was Splinter Twin combo made things maybe a little bit more interesting. Because you not casting Splinter Twin was basically Rishadan porting your opponent, for removal, right? So it's you don't tap your you get an attack with a man land, and they have to hold up Dark Banishing or whatever nonsense, right?
If the game is scripted and the thing that's on the battlefield, and you make them not be able to beat the thing on the battlefield every turn, then if at the point that they finally can answer the thing on the battlefield, you have your I win combo in reserve.
Right. I'm fine with that line of thinking. However, the thing that I don't like in broad strokes is that if you're playing my heuristic, right, is just attacking with Treetop Village, in this case, is a Raging Ravine, which is even more disgusting. It costs 4 mana to activate.
Attacking +1/+1 counter.
I've read the card. I did read the card. Trust me. Once I got to the colon, like when I was like 2, I'm like, okay, and then R, and then I'm like, ugh, and then G. You are right that many people would not read what it says past the colon, but I went ahead and read past the colon, and I'm like still not impressed by what you get for
double
5
activate
mana.
It. Double activating it.
Just tap 8 lands. In any case,
you went deep into the bag for that one.
I've read the card. I don't like attack. The heuristic I use is that I attack with Treetop Village last, because if I attack with Treetop Village now and then I draw a card and I draw another card that I can cast, then I'm like 3 turns away from being able to play all the spells in my hand, which may or may not influence the game more than 3 damage. I think that the spot itself was I think it was like pretty clear based on the exact cards in everyone's hands, or even people's ranges, that neither play was like had dramatic edge over the next. And I think that you could argue for others, because like
I agree. I don't think it was a clear one.
And then it was also like a bloodthirst thing, because it was like you're like, I'm just gonna extend the game because I'm in an advantage here. I can trust in my deck, or in this case SWB's deck, because SWB drafted the deck. I can trust on my deck to improve over the time, and I don't need to go for the throat and just go 1-for-1 on the Splinter Twin.
Why do you keep naming cards that aren't in pre-modern? Go for the throat, Bloodthirst.
I said Dark Banishing earlier, okay? I could have said Baleful Mastery.
So many cards that aren't in pre-modern, and I'm just saying,
Ricochet. If I had said,
didn't know that.
If I had said Baleful Mastery or Liliana's Edict, I guess if I said Liliana's Edict, he could probably make some inferences. But like, this is all in service of Ricochet not having to open up Scryfall during the podcast.
I don't know what Scryfall is.
I think he may have been around for Raging Ravine though, in at some point in his time. In any case,
okay, bringing this back to pre-modern
control decks.
I feel like similar. I'll take a similar approach to Terradon, where it's like, I'm fine beating down on my 2/2 and porting you until you like have something that answers that. And then when you try to like make some answer to that, that's when I could just dump an Armageddon and a Terravore.
Yeah, I think that the problem I have...
That's like the Splinter Twin combo there.
Yeah. My notion of this is like, okay, but what if my thing is like Survival of the Fittest or Replenish or just Deep Analysis, you know? Like
Deep Analysis is fine.
Like if
when I played against Oath Spec in the Swiss, like Adam cast a bunch of Deep Analysis against me, but didn't really matter. I'm just like controlling the board enough with ports and like attacking with a 3/3. And
I assume you didn't get caught under an oath then, right? That's really the dangerous situation.
No, we traded oaths game 1, or like he oathed, and then we were. I happen to have some Terravores in my hand, so like I was just casting Terravores out.
That card, you shouldn't be able to.
I was just swordsing his Terravores and casting my own Terravores. He only runs 3 Terravores as creatures, so by the 3rd oath trigger, it was his last card in the deck, so he like decked himself. But even if it wasn't, I had enough Terravores to match it and swords to make it so that he had no ways to like win.
All right, so Mike, please give us your working definition of what is a control deck, because I do not think that you would define Contamination or Terrageddon as control decks under, you know, sort of your blanket of like what your notion.
Terrageddon is more of a control deck than Contamination.
This is a long and dubious line of inconsistent definitions. Like I was arguing with Randy once that like there are no control decks, there are no beatdown decks. Everything is contextually driven. Like if you look at how some people play Burn, you might be accused of those guys play Burn like it's a mid-range deck, right? You can see, my favorite thing to do is play combo like a control deck. I'm sure Andy does the same thing. Okay, yeah. So like you just play in such a way that a control deck would play instead of a way that you're trying to win the game. You're playing in a way to exhaust resources of your opponent and then just be one massive resource ahead of them. But I think that it's generally contextually driven. Chapin would say that control decks strive to build upon advantages instead of trying to end the game, right? So, and advantages can be defined in different ways, right? So traditionally, just like card advantage is the main thing that people try to hoard. But control decks don't necessarily, especially when they're contextually driven, don't necessarily drive card advantage in the traditional sense. Contamination, for example, is like always minus cards, but it's effectively up infinite cards because the opponent can't do anything. So,
right. Like, what's your identifying?
What I would say is like a deck that is happy when nothing happens in a turn cycle.
So,
like if both players just draw a card and pass, like, and the deck that's happy is the control deck.
Yeah. I want to address the first thing.
But that's contextually driven, right? So,
right.
Like, there are times that like Landstill is often the beatdown. That's the thing that I'd point out in pre-modern. Landstill is often the deck that's on the attack. That's often the deck that's tapping all of its mana.
We wouldn't have to turn what Andy said into a literal law for it to get the point across. The larger picture, which goes closer to how Mike likes to think about games, which is like what happens once both players have just drawn all the cards in their deck, right? Or most of the cards in their deck, because what Andy's saying is
the cleverer player wins. Regardless of
what Andy's
who's the beatdown.
No, I mean, if it's like Goblins versus Landstill, then Landstill will have won that game, right? If both players draw go for eternity, Landstill gets the upper hand. But I think what Andy's saying is very is a very elegant definition of like the question of who's the beatdown, who's the control, right? The beatdown player is the player that doesn't want to draw go, and the control player does.
I thought you were asking for an abstract definition, which is like along the lines of what is a control deck, and I was saying like this is what control deck is in
context. So
right, but like
okay, so your counterexample to that is that Landstill is sometimes the beatdown. So does that make it not a control deck? And my point,
its default is it's the control deck most of the time, contextually, right?
Right.
But in practice, it's often the beat. Like when two control decks.
I mean, its primary game plan is to draw a card and do nothing.
Is to not have anybody cast a spell.
Yeah,
that's actually no one can cast a spell as Landstill's utopian game state.
Well, I mean, I would just say like, okay, then the fact that Landstill is sometimes the beatdown does not make it a control deck. Like in the context of a match, there are decks that maybe like Landstill has to be the beatdown from turn one, right? If it's Landstill versus like, I don't know, maybe Stasis, maybe Tide Control. It's hard to. I mean, it's like it gets complex, it gets washed out. But nobody would argue that Landstill is not a control deck. It's the most prototypical control deck available in pre-modern.
A data guy I once worked with said there's no problem that can't be made simpler by chunking it into smaller pieces. And so I think that like we have these like big words like control or beatdown or combo. These are just big words. And we could just say, what if we had 16 definitions instead of 3 definitions? I think like if we have 16 definitions, you can very clearly delineate decks based on one of 16 definitions, right? So you have so both Burn and Goblins are aggressive decks, right? But Burn is much closer to a combo deck and Goblins is much closer to a mid-range deck. Right, so by default,
right. I mean, there's charts floating around from various old Magic books that few have read that are like,
and some have written.
Some have written, perhaps even on this call, that are like very weird circle graphs with arrows and like labels everywhere, and like that's basically what you're saying, which is just like, well, control, beatdown, and combo weren't enough, so we just created a compass like a weather vane that points north northwest and south southwest,
So
right?
like I have like just a bunch of rule of thumbs that I don't know if I've ever
Just
said
like
out loud
5
to
clicks
anybody
to
else.
the north and 3.
Like to me, it's just like when two different decks that want to be control decks fight, the one that has more blue tends to be at the advantage, right? That's a thing that I would say. Or when two decks that have the same end game fight, right? The faster deck tends to have a massive advantage, right? So, or when two burn decks fight, the deck with more expensive cards tends to be at the advantage. But those aren't necessarily true every single time. It's just, but it's useful. It's useful to know that as a rule of thumb, that if two decks have the same end game, the one of them that gets damage in faster tends to win more because the line is shorter once they both get to the end game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is kind of interesting and kind of not. Andy prompted us. I had a call for topics in the coffee Discord. Check out the link in description. And Andy said, pick some matchups and talk about both sides of the matchup. And I thought that was really interesting. And that is...
Please can it not be Stasis versus Dreadnought?
That is the distance...
Any other matchup?
That is the distance between 3 definitions of decks versus 16 definitions of decks versus infinite definitions of decks. Anywhere in between, like, what happens when Psychotog plays against Elves versus what happens when Control plays against Combo, and when Control plays against Combo is, like, barely useful, is...
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's barely useful.
Some people are like Combo wins, and some people are like Control wins.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of Control.
Yeah, it's like, but isn't Combo, like, every turn it just draws more duresses, and then Control, like, every turn it draws more rapid.
They kill you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So, and I also wanted to rewind because basically what you mentioned, the thing that you mentioned, which I think is important and interesting, was like, oh, well, how much card advantage happens in this situation, right? How much card advantage did Contamination get when and establish the lock? Well, it just got infinity because now every card in your deck in hand was discarded, right? And it is basically like card advantage is an imperfect tool for you to
all of these things are useful to have as tools. I think that when you get to a certain level as a Magic theoretician, you should stop trying to find rules that are like hard and fast, and you should just think about things as a tool set, right?
They are weirdly completely unrelated, or not completely unrelated, but quite unrelated to like actual gameplay, right? Like it's like if you're sitting there and you're like land still and your opponent is just like attacking you with a creature, you're like choice whether or not to Swords to Plowshares that creature is like entirely contextual. Like there's nothing about the nature, like the DNA, the broad identity of your deck that informs your decision making there. It's just like literally like, okay, well, I don't know. Can I block it later? Can I Wrath of God later? So how many hits can I take? Like those are all questions that you ask regardless of what you think about yourself or your deck. If you
think about this as like a full circle, I would say that the first major breakthrough I made as a kitchen table Magic player, the first thing that I ever learned, I'm like, I am now a better player than I was in the earlier version of myself, was when I held my lightning bolt to lightning bolt my opponent at the end of their turn instead of just bolting them immediately on the first turn. That was the first thing, right? So I went from somebody who is just like, oh, I drew a lightning bolt. This is the most efficient source of damage
yeah,
that
you're just
I'm aware of.
Like really happy that you have a lightning
there
bolt
are
in your
7
hand.
of them in my 75 card deck because that's how many I own. Bolt you. So I went from that to wait a second, I should bolt. This is an instant. I could bolt them at end of turn, and then that moves on to wait. Sometimes you should lightning bolt their creature, right? And then when you come full circle, you're like, for this matchup, because it's a race, I have to optimize my mana utilization. And they might have like days, so I'm bolting them on the first turn because that's the way this hand is scripted, right? Like you come all the way around.
Yeah,
This is like a gear one hand.
A very early thing that I said on this podcast was that I think that Burn, Dreadnought, and Parfait are the same kind of deck. And it just makes sense to me. Like, it just makes sense. And I said it, and I was just like, look, I like all these decks. I like playing all these decks. I feel very like,
They're all the same kind of deck because you like them all.
Well, no, and I was just like, but why, why not, like, some other, like, why not Terradon? Why doesn't Terradon fit into this picture? Why doesn't, like, the Rock or Landstill or even Mono Blue Tide, right? Andy's like begging me every day. He's just like, Lanny, you should play Mono Blue. Every time a tournament comes around, Andy's just like, but have you considered playing Mono Blue Tide?
Lanny, this is the simplest fucking answer. All three of the decks that you named are full of overpowered one drops. Lightning Bolt, Swords to Plowshares, Land Tax, Phyrexian Dreadnought, and the cards that cost more than one are often free. Fire Blast, Achroma Angel of Wrath, you don't pay any mana for them at all. That's what those decks have in common. If you could
just like mana efficiency.
It's not mana efficiency. Every card costs one. All these three decks.
That's mana efficiency.
A bunch of shit costs one, and the cards that cost more than one are literally free. Foil.
Wait, when was the last time you cast a Fact or Fiction? It's great.
Oh, I cast Fact or Fiction recently. I like casting
it's not in any of these three decks. That's what they have in common. And when you have Andy saying, "Hey, why don't you try my Tide Control deck?" or Lanny always shitting on Terrageddon. Here's a deck that the cards cost 3, 4, sometimes 6 mana. And he's like, "Why would I do that? Have you ever read Foil? It costs nothing."
I build lots of decks that contain the card Vindicate.
First of all, that card sucks.
I build Fact or Fiction decks. I build Exalted Angel decks.
I am just talking about why you like those three decks. I have no purview beyond the three decks that you specifically mentioned.
So I over the course of theoretical discussion, some of it coming around on the Pay to Win Discord, and some of it our discussion. We talk about Burn all the time.
Is the Pay to Win Discord the same as the Coffee Discord?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just not sure which is.
Yeah, I just change the name every time I mention it. The first thing was that we talked about the skill cap of Burn a lot, and I finally reached the point because we talked about range, we talked about Burn and player skill and like how it interacts, and I think that the problem was us wanting to say that Burn was a skill intensive deck was because a lot of people thought that Burn didn't take any skill. People thought that the wins were free, or like the majority of the wins were just determined by the order of the deck. And the true mastery of Burn is understanding and manipulating equity. And then the next layer is that the equity is very easy to calculate when all your cards deal damage and your opponent has some number of life total, right?
I think I'm coming around to the other side on this. I think that most of the elegance of Burn is which cards to prioritize, and you, for the most part, interact with those cards and ignore the other ones, and then you hit them for 20 before.
Yeah, you're just that's not harder than.
It's super simple.
Yeah,
you just have to know the matchup, right? Yeah. You have to know the card valuation.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing. The card valuation is the important thing that you said, right? Because a lot of people misevaluate the cards. They do things like they bold face on the first turn. They do things like they kill creatures when they should be killing face. They kill face when they should be killing creatures. They don't set themselves up for the ability to win the game. That's actually the most common one. I think the most common Burn mistake is putting yourself in a position where it's nearly impossible for you to win the game, because you only draw one card per turn, right?
Well, you have finite resources.
Exactly, you have finite resources. So
and basically no card drawing.
And so the reason why people make that mistake is sort of just not having a robust understanding of how many draw steps you have remaining and the likelihood of those draw steps to deal the remaining damage that you need, because you have no other path to victory. And that is not easy, but that is also not hard. It's like very easy when all you have is like mountains, and the only possible card that you can draw next is like somewhere between a Mog Fanatic and a Grim Lavamancer, maybe a Curse Scroll, a card that deals X damage, 2 or 3 damage to any target, and then Fire Blast or Ball Lightning, and I guess if you're smart, Sulfuric Vortex, right? Or Curse Scroll. So that's easy when your deck is comprised of those cards. Now, another thing that I said on the Pay to Win Discord was, somebody was posed the question. They're like, "What do you do? How do you play against Dreadnought? What do you do how do you play perfectly around Dreadnought?" Right? And I was just like, "That's very easy. Like, it's very difficult to navigate the turns before Phyrexian Dreadnought is in play, but after Phyrexian Dreadnought's in play, you're just like, okay, count the number of cards they have in their hand." Count the number of cards that you have in your hand that have text now, and just figure out how to cast them all. And that's before they attack you twice, right? That's not that difficult. And in that moment, I was just like, yes, this is a moment where it is very easy to calculate, to perform the necessary calculations. You're just sitting there and you've got it's not super easy. We talked about the Abeyance line in the previous podcast, where Michael J just wanted to cast Abeyance instead of a Null to play around a very specific combination of cards. But the information and the lines were there. And I was just thinking the other day, I was like, these are just the same things. It's just like very clear in both situations with Burn and Dreadnought, like what needs to happen next from that certain point. And then if you flip it one more time, you're just like, if you are the Dreadnought player, it is also really easy to know what you need to do next, right? So it's like you're sitting there and you're at 10 life and your opponent has like 4 power in play. Then you have to cast a Dreadnought this turn. You don't have to cast the Dreadnought one turn before. You might, because, like whatever. Or the simple advice that I keep repeating, which is just cast all your cantrips and then cast Dreadnought when you're done casting cantrips, and then
you just cast Dreadnought on the second turn.
This is
the I'm firmly a believer of the Dreadnought on the second turn. Now we've come all the way around. I used to be like, Dreadnought on the second turn. No, slow play the Dreadnought. No, fuck that. It's jam the Dreadnought.
Right.
Like all the interactions that are interesting are held up in the zone before the Dreadnought's in play. My
point is, when you're the Burn player, you're like, the only way I'm winning this game is if I, draw 2 of my next 4 cards are Burn spells that deal at least 6 damage or whatever. When you're Dreadnought, from the point that you mulligan, you're like, well, I know the only way I'm winning this game is attacking twice with a 12/12. Mishra's Factory notwithstanding. This was like in the more pure days of Dreadnought. And so you could sit in your hand and you can just calculate. You're like, okay, well, I've got like a Portent, an Impulse, and a Vision Charm. And I'm like, if my Portent hits this and my Impulse hits this, like, it's just so easy. It's like, it's not the easiest thing to do, but it's something that is just like very, very accessible, which is just like, you just know what to prioritize. Like, you know what you need to draw off Portent. You know what you need to draw off Impulse. You're like, I need a Dreadnought. I need a combo piece. I need a foil. I need a Gush to power my foil. I need a counterspell. This kind of thing, or I need some redundancies to my plan. But it's just so obvious what you need to do. Whereas, like, if you're playing some control deck containing the card, Impulse or Portent, or somebody's giving you a Factor Fiction pile and they're like a Factor Fiction pile splitting master, and so they present you with a hard decision, and you have to like evaluate, like, okay, well, now I no longer have like, let's say we're in the mid game. We don't know a lot about our opponent's hand. Maybe we know a lot about our opponent's deck, but we haven't picked up many tells. The point is, there's more fog of war. There's more uncertainty. And as a result, all of a sudden your calculations become like way harder because there's way more variables. Your deck contains weird cards that do a bunch of different things. You're like, okay, my game is completely different if my next card is Disenchant versus my next card being like Humility or something, right? Like, or Decree of Justice. Like, you just have all these cards that just all do different stuff. You're like, how am I supposed to plan for this? And plan still, the plan is to
play control.
Yeah,
that like your cards all need to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like,
so, like, but what was so interesting was at the very beginning of this conversation was, Andy Levine basically saying like, oh, well, you just suppress their mana and then you attack for 2. And like, this is a plan I can get behind. Like, this is something that would make my decision making very easy. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do this turn? I'm going to port him twice, and then I'm going to draw my next card.
I think that's the Terradon is still like fundamentally a mid-range deck, but it has a very, in general, I guess with mid-range you can play aggro or control, but it's both a combination of the matchup and the cards in your hand that like obviously dictate that. And I think like by your opening hand in an unknown matchup, like you might have just turn 2 Call of the Herd, turn 3 Call of the Herd, try to beat down, or you might have a plan that's like Weathered Wayfarer, Meddling Mage, and you just want to port in a Wasteland and attack it.
I think that's so funny that you think that, Andy. And I'm not saying that you're definitely wrong. I'm just saying, like, I've played against a lot of Terrageddon and variants of it, and every time I lose, it's because they were a combo deck. They went, here's a Terravore, here's an Armageddon. And they didn't play a mid-range game because I could have mid-ranged them if they were just casting a bunch of Call of the Herds, right? Like, I could get card advantage. I could go wide. No, they just have an undercosted Trampler, and then they blow up all my mana, so I can't do anything. And then they attack me twice. Like, that's what I think. Or they just.
I think the general way you should do it most often is to just like stick a 2/2 or a 3/3, and then stop them from doing anything. Keep on attacking until they have to answer your 2/2 or 3/3, and then just like.
I've almost never lost to Terrageddon, so that's part of my problem.
I mostly lose to Terrageddon like when they're being a combo deck, right? Okay. If they're being a mid-range deck, I just pop them.
All right.
They take 1,000 damage. Like all their cards are non-basic.
So the third leg of this argument, and apologies to our newer listeners who got into pre-modern after the land tax ban. The third leg of this argument is like, okay, so you have Parfait, and this is a deck that is like an Enlightened Tutor toolbox deck. It's got a bunch of weird cards. It has 1 Engineered Plague. It has 1 Tormod's Crypt. I added 1 Fire Ice and 1 Mana Leak to the deck. You're like, Lanny, this is the thing that you're talking about of just like, what am I supposed to do with this deck? And my answer to you was quite simple, which was like, you had 2 things that you had to do. Or one, you had either one thing or a different thing that you had to do. The first thing was most decks couldn't beat Oath of Druids. So your plan was to put Oath of Druids onto the battlefield and nothing else mattered. You had to make a lot of decisions in a random game, in a random sampling of games of Parfait. You had to make a lot of decisions. You had to be like, oh, like this turn, I use my mana, I play these cards, like whatever. But all that actually mattered was if you had Oath of Druids in play. Or in the subset of games where Oath of Druids is not important, is if you had land tax and scroll rack and whether or not your land tax was triggered.
You had a card that cost 1 mana that said draw 4 cards a turn. Like no, that's pretty good.
As evidenced by the preponderance of decks that can and still win with Oath of Druids afterwards. Like Oath of Druids beats say 30% of the format, and then what you do with the rest of your slots is addressing the other 70. But yeah, that was that. To answer your question more directly, yes, of course that was part of it. Part of it was like, okay, well, what's my plan after Oath of Druids is in play, and or if Oath of Druids is irrelevant, then my plan is to put land tax into play. And most of the deck's slots, like we were playing Argivian Find in the deck, like
because you like cards that cost 1.
No,
I mean, like,
because if they blow up your land tax or your scroll rack, you just pick it up again, like,
or your Oath of Druids.
Or your Oath of Druids, right? It was like, it's actually so abundantly clear to me that this was also just the same kind of deck as Dread, like, because you're just like, how am I going to win this game? There's only one way I'm going to win it. I'm going to put land tax into play and put scroll rack into play. It's like, how am I going to do that? I'm like, okay, well, so I'm going to duress away their naturalize.
Right? Like, the Dreadnought deck can win so many different ways, and so can the Parfait deck.
The Parfait deck cannot win in so many different ways. The Parfait deck
with Gaia's Blessing.
That almost never happened. You would do one of 2 things. You would attack with your Shard Phoenix. If your Mark Vote, that's all you had, was attacking with Shard Phoenix or Gaia's Blessing kill. Or you would...
Can play Zur's Weirding?
Use Zur's Weirding. Or, I guess, and this is the funniest one, You can get all your Gaia's Blessing exiled and countered by the blue-white Tide player, and they simply would not understand the fact that your scroll rack means that you would never get decked.
So you're saying there's multiple ways to go to libraries and not get
those decked. Those were extreme outliers, because the reason I had won that game,
the games I live for.
The reason I won that game was because I got a land tax into play and it triggered, right? Because they were playing blue-white Tide. This was in 2023. They're playing blue-white Tide. And so I just like got the land tax in play and they triggered, and they just like tided me a couple times. And I was just like, yeah, I mean, I've got more when they're
going to draw 4.
I'm just going to do nothing because they just lost.
You were just a human null rod.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways.
It's ironic because you had so many artifacts with activated abilities in your deck.
So fundamentally, those 3 decks are the same. The deck that
no, they're not.
They're identical.
They just have a lot of one.
I literally proved it, and it's proof. The one deck that is unlike.
Well, then Tide Control's the same. You're just trying to get Tide and Chain of Vapor.
I'm down.
It's just on 1-drops.
I am down. I do think that Tide Control, like
Breakfast, is also
Armageddon's just Terravore plus Armageddon.
So
just trying to get Cephalid Illusionist in play.
Well, Terradon is just like obnoxious because like, okay, so that's your plan.
Whether it's obnoxious or not is on a different line.
What's your plan?
Whether or not all the decks are the same.
What's your plan if you're trying to execute that plan? Just like Sylvan Library, right? Burn has redundancies. Dreadnought obviously is comprised entirely of redundancies, and Parfait, as I mentioned, was just like a lot of Enlightened Tutors, Sylvan Library, and then we were like, again, the reason I bring up Argivian Find was just like Argivian Find is just not a card that any other deck is they don't play it in Enchantress, right?
Wait, Lanny, are you arguing that these decks are the same because they're redundant to an extreme degree? That
is one good example, right?
So they're different from land still because they're different from black-white control.
Yes.
Okay.
They're
super not different from Breakfast.
They're not too different.
Breakfast is a hyper.
Yeah.
My cards do the same thing.
Yeah. They're very similar to Breakfast. They're very similar to many combo decks, like very similar to Devour, and similar, as Andy pointed out, to Tide. Like Andy built his Tide deck, he put 4 Parallax Tide in it. Like that was a change, right? Like decks had 3, and Andy was like, I'm playing 4. Now
Andy was just like, why would you play Standstill in this deck?
So who knows if time will, maybe there's a world in which we would play 3 Tide in the future, but Andy's right that Tide definitely fits into this. Grotog doesn't fit into this at all. But
on the other hand, those are just
everything you're describing just kind of has like a linear primary game plan.
The important part about the linear primary game plan is not the fact that it's linear or primary, right? Like the Parfait deck would board into Meddling Mage. I have played every version of Dreadnought. I've played blue-white Dreadnought with Decree of Justice in the sideboard most recently.
Okay, that's weird.
I've played, of course,
a deck that has 2 lands in play.
I
even cycle the Decree.
I, of course, have played Dr. Surf and Surf, and my burn deck plays Earthquake. I guess my burn deck's not a good example. My burn deck still tries to deal 20 damage. However, the point of all this is that it just makes your decision making very easy. And so if we go back to Lanny doesn't understand control, the god honest truth of it is like when I'm put in, like, it's actually a weird reason why I don't like the Replenish deck, because the Replenish deck has a weird problem where it's like it's a combo deck, but your game is very, very different if your next card is like Intuition versus if your next card is like your second Parallax Tide, right?
It's weird that you don't like the Replenish deck, given how often you play it when given an unlimited array of decks that you could be playing.
It's really good.
You played it in both Sacred Torches. You played it in the PSS that you won. I mean, like you put a ton of innovation into it. It's like, but I don't really like Replenish. Whereas I've always been like, I really like Replenish, I think it's as good as Dreadnought. It just has 4 casting cost cards instead of 1 casting cost cards.
You got me there.
That's the extent of my analysis. They're
Maybe
about as
that's why I
good as
dislike
each
it.
other, but one of them is 4 casting cost cards.
No, but can't you see what I'm saying? It's like Replenish is a really obnoxious deck because its cards do very different things in very different contexts. You can draw a Replenish and it can win.
Unhinged to me, right? Like all the time people are like, Mike has weird hot takes. Like you're just like a religious Subway crazy right now. You know, like I love religious Subway crazies. I turn my headphones off whenever one comes on and starts like waving a Bible around while screaming. I always listen to what they have to say, which is why I know that you sound like one right now.
I think like that sounds like you're
almost one.
Like I get kind of what you're saying with Replenish, where like sometimes you want to just discard all your enchantments because like you want to be playing towards getting a Replenish, and then it sucks when you draw like naturally just draw like enchantments afterwards. But I think like
it's a deck that you break your own heart. I can tell you right now.
I think Replenish is a deck like
breaks your own heart.
Well, I played against Packer twice in the in Sacred Torch, and I think he definitely has a controlling build of it with counter spells and stuff. But
love his deck.
Yeah, it was very good, and I think he's extremely patient with using attunement for kind of what Lanny's talking about, where like you don't want to just like bounce your attunement on a like he was fine just passing the turn. He had an attunement in play for like 4 turns, until he figured out what his game plan was going to be.
Very important,
and then activates the attunement.
I mean, to be fair, that you can do that with attunement against a Terradon deck, which is what you were playing, right? But like either there's decks where you're under the gun and it's you know attunement's kind of got to get you there,
right?
Or your opponent's playing a blue deck and you can't use the attunement at all.
I think if you're under the gun again, like then you know if you're under the gun, then you probably know whether you need to get like an Opal Wave combo, like if you need to go for Replenish or you need to go for what.
Yeah, I guess that really sharpens the end of your spear.
Yeah. I mean it's like the importance is really just the lesson here is that if you have an attunement in play, you shouldn't just start spinning it because you might like you need to properly range the next 3 cards on top of your deck against the cards in your hands such that like there's a good outcome when you discard 4 cards, right? Because there's some context where the cards in your hands you have no business ever picking up that attunement.
Counterpoint, that's how I would play it, right? Like I leave my mana open on turn 2 because I have a counter spell or a mana leak or whatever in my hand. Maybe I play the attunement on turn 2 because I have a soul land. But really, if you're going to be the kind of person who plays the game plan of tapping all your mana like 4 turns in a row in the hopes of exhausting your opponent's resources, that's one game plan. But if you're like Mengu, like you ever watch Mengu play Replenish? I've watched him play Replenish on camera. I think every documented Mengu match of Replenish, I think I've watched more than once, right? Like the dude, like, I think this is a bloodthirsty thing. He just plays in a way that he's just like positive that his attunement is going to get him replenished.
Yeah, he's just demonic consulting.
And like,
he's like,
and it's there.
He's just like 18 mana demonic consultation.
Like every single time he's like, he's just like, his attunement is like, I mean, he has utter confidence that the attunement is going to get him to replenish the next turn. He does it over and over and over again. And then he did like his post championship interview when he won Italian Nats last year. He's just like, that can't be beat unless you have mana control. To come back to Andy's point from the beginning, he's just like, if your opponent's not messing with your mana, nothing can beat this deck, which I think is an interesting position to have if your attunement always gets you there, right? Like, but
well, it actually, there's a subtle thing going on here, which is that attunement can't get you out of situations where your opponent is attacking your mana, right? Because if you get Cataclysm or get in,
choose land or spell.
Yeah, so you can't.
It's the opposite of abundance,
right? But yeah, when you say Lanny doesn't understand control, like it's a joke. But I actually fundamentally agree because
it's not a joke.
Like
we figured out you don't understand control.
Like one, I think that like it is not a coincidence that the decks I like are powerful and contain powerful cards. And if you come to me,
that's true for all of us.
if you come to
I
me
also like powerful
with like a deck like Landstill and the cards are expensive and they don't do the same thing and there's no built-in redundancies, the primary game plan feels very contingent.
Can you not appreciate the beautiful elegance of Landstill? It is a lovely deck on paper.
I'm like pretty sure it is just like Standstill is just like load bearing in that deck, and then like all of the decks that are indifferent to Standstill, and there are many, like you know, most importantly, the thing that Andy pointed out that, you know, led him to cut Standstill from his deck was just like you would just cast Standstill on turn 2 and your opponent would like scratch their head for a second, then just be like, survival of the fittest then. And then you would be like, okay, I guess that resolves. I'll draw 3. And then you proceed to lose this to the survival of the fittest.
We could just come up with all of the times we cast Standstill and something bad happened to us.
Yeah, right.
I was playing Cam once and I played a Standstill. He's like, 3 cards, how novel.
Yeah, I was like, I'll play Argothian Enchantress.
He played Argothian Enchantress, and I'm like, oh boy. Is there a fair sanctum?
This is why I don't like Standstill. This is why I don't like Control, right?
Well, it sounds like it's why you don't like Standstill on 2. You don't need to play Standstill on 2.
I played Standstill on 2 with the Fairy Conclave against Selden. He just had 2 Mistress Factories. I was humiliated.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the freaking draw.
Great.
Like,
That's
I had the
situation.
draw. And then he's like, I had 2 Mistress Factories. Nice Fairy Conclave, idiot. You're going to plow me? Like, here they come. Both of them are coming every turn. This is all my mana. Yeah, he drew 3.
Yeah. And then, like, you kind of go to the next, like, okay, so what decks qualify as Control? And then you're just kind of like, well, what besides Standstill? It's like we barely have Control in this format anymore, right? It's just like the Tide Control decks, the Enchantress decks, and the Terrageddon decks are like...
There's a lot of Control decks.
I mean...
Stasis, Tide Control.
Not a deck.
Blue-White Tide Control. It just top 4'd the Misty tournament yesterday.
Shrug.
Straight up yesterday.
Shrug on Stasis. We collectively
take a league week, and I'll bring Tide Control, and you have to play it.
We collectively decided that Stasis was Le Shrug. I'm talking about Stasis.
I was in love with Stasis for about 1 week.
I named
Everyone
Tide Control. To be clear, Tide Control is not Shrug. Tide Control is just okay. Like,
I don't understand. Tide Control has been a consistent overperformer ever since it kind of debuted. Every single tournament it's in, it overperforms. I don't understand how you don't like it. But I actually wanted to go back to your categorization of decks, and I realized something interesting because you had made a different weird comparison in the past. Based on your Parfait Burn Dreadnought paradigm, Elves is a deck like those decks, but Goblins is not a deck like those decks.
Yes.
And you're always just like, Elves and Goblins are the same, except for Goblin sharpshooters, all the Elves. So choose Goblins. Like that was always your argument. I'm like, wait a second, I like Elves. No, I'm in a Goblin sharpshooter, all your Goblins. Anytime you want to play Elves, just play Goblins. But the Goblins deck is different than the Lanny, all my cards cost 1 and do the exact same thing paradigm.
I want to be clear here that even in that time, I was more of an Elves player than I was a Goblins player.
I was the one who was just like, I think Elves is good. And you're like, shut up, Goblins.
Yeah, I mean, in 2024, I still stand by that, right? And then in 2025, I also stand by that if we're 6 months into the year. Like, for the first...
Elves is not a good
for the first 6 months of 2025... I am like literally on my Elves apology tour. I'm just like, sorry to all of the Elves players that I offended.
And then someone cast a quiet speculation.
It's like, it turns out that Elves is a real deck. I just want to be clear that the entire time I've always been an Elves player, so just don't come for me. And then like we turn the corner into July and August.
Yeah. In 1984, you're like, I have always been an Elves advocate. Yeah. And Andy Levine has always loved Weathered Wayfarer.
Yeah, absolutely.
No notes.
Those two things are equally true. And then July and August, we're back to where we started with Elves is poo poo doo doo butter, and you literally can't do anything
I am
to save
now
it.
Elves is poop doo butter.
Yeah, I played Elves. I played the Magic Online Championships for season 17. I was playing Elves against Enchantress. In game 1, I won on turn 4, and then in games 2 and 3, my opponent won on roughly turn 4. And my conclusion was, gee, this matchup is a lot harder if they can put Parallax Wave on, or threaten to put Parallax Wave onto the battlefield on turn 3. I might have misplayed. I probably did misplay. Don't know if it would have mattered, but Elves doesn't even look like it's great against Enchantress anymore.
Well, that's the whole Tangle Wire thing that Nick Mayo talked about.
Yeah, I would like. I think that Tangle Wire Rishnapport Winter Orb is like very interesting, and I would also point out that Jens Jaeger still found the loss against Rich Shea after keeping Rich Shea off of tons of mana, and then
look, man, if losing to Rich Shea is a crime, like we're all in this. We're all in this.
I don't think Rich did anything novel except for just continue to draw lands off of his Miri's Guile.
I'm going to interrupt here because you guys did tell me to help you keep you on rails. So what do you want to be talking about? Do you want to talk about a particular matchup?
I want to talk about the top decks from yesterday.
Okay.
That's what I want to do.
Do you have a list? Do you have the list for that?
Yeah, you'll have to link us out. This is, of course, the semi-revival of pre-modern at Misty Mountain Games. It has been a little bit of a quieter year, but they... BK, of course, is promising to bring back the pre-modern action, which, of course, we are all grateful for. This is the...
Where in Wisconsin's Misty?
What's
Madison.
that? Madison, yeah.
Is it Madison? Okay, cool. I'm going there at the end of the month.
What was the call? This was like a 16 Dark Ritual top 8?
Top four 16 Dark Rituals.
So all 4 decks of the top 4 contains 4 Dark Ritual?
Yeah.
What was the third place deck?
He had a paper deck list, so nobody uploaded it to me.
Yeah, but do you know what the deck was?
No,
I
know there were 4 Dark Rituals. Though.
Getting that info shortly, but you can talk about what you see.
So, I am excited to play. I was excited to play David Gleitcher's deck. I watched him play a couple of matches on camera. He had a 69% game win percentage, which is the highest in the tournament. And then I looked at his deck list, and then I was no longer excited to play.
Quick aside, nobody ever talk about game win percentage ever again. That's like the most annoying.
Why? When it's 69%.
Okay, fine. If and only if
at 69%.
If and only if it is 69.69%, 69%, or 42.0%.
Wow, we're not talking about a 42.0% deck.
Also fair.
So I mean, so the winner of the deck, of the tournament was just looks like classic, bottomless pit, mono black bottomless pit, with actual 4 bottomless pits.
Yeah, it is not pitless rack. It is just pit rack.
And like 4 Cabal Therapy, 4 Duress, and like.
Okay, so what are these decks good against?
I mean, this
like why are they winning?
Dreadnought.
Do we know?
Because I'm looking at the rest of the field. There's not a lot of Dreadnought. There seems to be a lot of creature decks, a lot of Elves stuff, and Goblins. So like, maybe it's doing well because we have Engineered Plagues.
Yeah, a lot of plague.
Engineered Plague is
and
a
then
banger.
A decent number of Stasis decks. There were a couple Burn decks, which are a bad matchup, right?
One of the Burn decks had Blistering Firecat. Ah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different flavors of Goblins.
Oh my god, you can't smother a Blistering Firecat? Let's go.
Like I kind of.
We're back.
Like,
We're so back.
It can't be good, but I still want to play it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, okay. Anyways, continue. I'm gonna be like casting it for 3 mana on turn 3 because I don't have a 4th land drop.
So Gleitcher, he came in second in the tournament, but he overall did the best. Just lost in the last round to another mono black deck. But this deck is just like, it's kind of all good. It just doesn't seem like super consistent to me. So 4 Hypno, 4 Ravrat.
Dark Ritual's not very good. And then it's card disadvantage.
Nantugo Shade isn't very good. Withered Wretch is contextual.
Board Muse.
Ravenous Rats is a weird cast against anybody playing Replenish.
Well, it is weird. But he's got like 1 Snuff Out, 1 Diabolic Edict, 1 Spinning Darkness in the main deck, 1 Phyrexian Arena. God bless him, he was able to beat Thursday as God on Stasis in the Swiss.
I need to call up. I think it was Grant Fly. He built a deck that he was calling Moneyball Black, and it might have inspired these, but this won a monthly league. It was from Grant Fly, and I think this is what this deck is templated off of. So shout out to him. And the cool thing is that you can see this deck on YouTube. I don't know his exact YouTube handle, so I'll have to get that shortly. But
wait, so why is it called Moneyball Black, and what's going on here?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Like, Moneyball is basically getting, that's like a Mike Flores thing, divide by 0. Where do we get like the most value from undervalued assets?
No, dividing by 0 is just like if somebody volunteers to ball boy and you're like, nice, I got my 0.001%.
Yeah, but that's what Moneyball is, right? Like, I could get this thing for a nickel.
No, you still invest, right? Like, divide by 0 is if you get something for literal free because that's infinite profit. You still getting better return on your investment is just the game. Like,
how is 1 spawning pool and 2 wasteland possibly right? As a person who made 2 spawning pool famous, I question 2 spawning pool. I'm sorry, 1 spawning pool and 2 wasteland.
Spawning pool is just insane. It just turns into a Drudge Skeleton, and what does it do? It blocks. So you spend 4 mana to block.
But when I had spawning pool in my deck, we didn't have wasteland. That wasn't available.
I just don't understand when attacking for 1 for a 3 mana investment is the move, and I also don't understand when 4 mana to fog when all the creatures that matter have trample or fly, I guess. Okay, we're getting away from this. I don't know, Mike. You wanted to talk about this. I have a really hard time talking about these mono black decks because I don't know what the secret is.
Well, all these decks are good against Dreadnought.
That is true.
Well, okay, no, let's just... I'm looking at the matches that David played against, and it just seems like these decks are good for the meta where, like, okay, what is mono black bad against? It's bad against decks that have good cards in it, and it's bad against decks that, like, what I mean by that is, like...
enchantments and artifacts, yeah.
It's bad against decks that have just objectively good cards in it.
Well, I think they're primarily bad against decks that, like, if their mono black deck is at an advantage, they can just peel out of the game, right? So, like, Dreadnought can't, right? Because it needs to assemble a 2-card combo. But, like, Burn can just peel a bunch of Fire Blasts off the top and kill them.
Yeah, it's bad against decks that don't need, like, strong synergies to win. Like, it can beat up on creature decks that are playing, like, Birds of Paradise that need a combination of creatures to do that are all really bad to do something, like individually bad. So something like Elves in that regard, especially because it runs a bunch of planes.
I mean, there's some decks that are like able to win with cards like Enchantress's Presence or Oath of Druids that are like taking up a lot of the metagame, and it's possible that in this...
Well, yes, it's also bad against anything with enchantments.
Yeah.
That do anything.
So I don't know if those decks didn't show up. I certainly see 0 Oath decks, I think. The problem is they're all named
I'm looking at David's matches. Those decks were not the matches that he played against. So he played against Goblins round 1, Stasis round 2, and Black is generally pretty good against blue decks because it couldn't, like, counter all the things that are relevant.
I mean, Ravenous Rats is one of the most hilarious ways to blow up a Stasis, by the way.
Yeah.
Like your opponent's just planning on exiling their last card to
like they don't have any cards in hand, and you just
To
exile their
Forsaken
last
City.
card so they can't untap the Forsaken City.
yeah.
Oh, so I watched his match against Thursday, and Thursday just had all of his stasis in his opening hand. He won game 1, and then he had all of his stasis in his hand and just got Cabal therapied for stasis. His deck now doesn't do anything, right? And then in game 3,
and eventually it's just going to get discard. All the cards will get discarded.
It was actually sweet. He upheaval Blackviced in game 3. I think he should have played his Blackvice earlier to just like get a little chip damage in, but he just didn't. But he just upheaval Blackviced, and then his hand was just stasises and islands after the upheaval, and there was a Cabal therapy in the graveyard. So like even though he did 9 damage on the first turn, like this wasn't going to go well. Like he can't, only island and stasis is in his hand left.
Mm-hmm.
So then he conceded, even though it was a sweet play, upheaval Blackvice.
Yeah.
But yeah, then round 3 was against the Sutured Ghoul.
The one that made top
thing.
4.
Buried Ghoul.
Yes.
Buried Ghoul that also can stifle or vision charm your Dreadnought.
I mean, but notably, this deck is good against Dreadnought and has 4 main deck Withered Wretch. So
Yeah.
We're back to talking
So,
about
like-
black. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying what the black matchup.
no, he's saying what his matchups
Oh, yeah,
were.
cool.
Yeah, I'm saying so he played against the graveyard deck, which
Okay,
black
yeah.
is good against. The graveyard combo deck, both things that black can answer. Round 4 was against Jeff, whose list is not listed.
But we know it was a Dark Ritual deck.
Oh, okay. So it was another. So that was, and then that was also they played each other in the semifinals as well.
Yeah.
Then he played round 5 against Hoyp, who was playing Pattern Rector, which is like another combo deck with just bad creatures that you can deal with. That
And Withered Wretch
Well,
is great to get.
to be fair, if Hoyp
it's good
ever
against Rector,
if
not
Hoyp-
Pattern.
if Hoyp puts a Rector into play and sacrifices it, then he gets a future sight, and that's
No,
pretty
he
good.
just he needs there
Withered
to
Wretch
not
can
be a
break it
Withered
up.
Wretch in play.
I understand. And it
And
sounds,
he needs
and
to-
it looks like he can't stop a Withered Wretch easily.
And he
However,
needs to get to a
oh yeah,
like a Rector without a Cabal
sorry,
therapy happening.
I just like read through the deck list really quick, and I forgot that there's no survival of fittest in this deck, and I was like, okay, cool, next question.
So yeah, right. The future sight getting that in play is really good in this matchup. But I think that this black deck is a good obviously it worked out based off of these matchups, but in general, looking at all of the decks in the tournament, it was just black is a good choice for this field.
Yes, I agree. Any further comments?
Would it be good at League? I think no. Everybody plays Oath of Druids.
You said that you wanted to brew Suicide Black, and you should brew Suicide Black instead of net decking like you always do.
Well, I'm not playing this week again. I didn't play last week.
I mean, this is one of the
week.
topics that I brought up in the
Catch up
Discord.
with
Is
me.
what deck do you choose for a particular event, and why do you choose that deck? In this case, if you expect the field to be like this field in Madison, black is actually pretty good because you're not facing against the things that black probably doesn't want to deal with are Oath of Druids and good cards like Terravores and stuff.
No one played Dreadnought in this tournament.
It doesn't look like there. Right? I mean, there's a few deck lists that weren't filled in, but the only Dreadnought was that I see of the decks filled in was this Buried Ghoul thing that can incidentally play a Dreadnought combo, but isn't playing Daze Foil, all that type.
Wait, it has 3 Stifle, 3 Vision Charm, 1 Reality Ripple. All respect, I don't know if that is possibly the correct split. 1 Reality Ripple.
I mean, if they have Meddling Mage naming the Buried Alive, gets the job done.
All right.
Okay, so
but for League, I think it's bad because my matchups at League this week were Oath Spec, Oath Panza, and White Weenie.
Who was on White Weenie?
Jeff Ferris.
Jeff Ferris.
It was one of the decks in his box, and
Yeah,
I guess
he
whoever played him
randomized.
round 1 rolled it.
yeah.
I know. Crusade was surprisingly good against me, despite it being a card that doesn't do anything besides make creatures bigger. It is so good against Essence Flare.
Your Essence Flare was countered by Crusade. I can't.
It turned your essence flare into a dismember.
Yeah.
I mean, or worse, you can no longer essence flare a silver knight that quickly. Like, you just take 10. Doesn't work.
Yeah. My build, I played the same 75 that I handed to like Billy at Sacred Torch.
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of essence flares
it
and
doesn't have as
dominates.
much
So I
red
just
hate.
like dominate everything,
So
and that works out.
to answer the root question, how do you select a deck for the event, for an event? I am struggling to talk too much about this because I think it's like very over-trod territory. I don't think there's too many hot takes. You can be in the camp where you know your deck super well, you know your deck's matchup super well. That's like when I play Grotog. The second camp is like you're going to take them all by surprise. That's when you do like a brew or you play a normal deck with like a crazy sideboard plan. Like the third thing is that you just name like the 4 players that you think are going to be in the top 8, and you just try to play a deck that beats all 4 of those. That's of course the Michael J method, which I don't know, varying amounts of success with regards to that. And
I used to only metagame for you.
Yeah,
but now
right.
there's too many players who are pretty good.
Yeah, the sickos have multiplied.
Like,
And
you can't metagame against like SWB and Andy and I guess D-Tao. Like,
yeah,
all at the same time, and like random people from Boston all at the same time.
and
Well, there's a different thing in the size of the tournament too, because you're talking about like
right, the likelihood.
you're talking about the top 8 of league is a very different field. Something like this Misty tournament, I don't know the metagame there.
If we're
showed up,
talking a 32-person tournament at the Bearded Dragon, and I know like, you know, I know a number of people there, I'm gonna have like some, you know, shout out to Brad Handley. He's been performing really well. He's always at the Bearded tournaments. You know, so sometimes there'll be names that you kind of like want to have an idea of or whatever. And I think that's like pretty valid if, you know, this podcast has always been like the objective is to win. And if the path to victory goes through a certain player and you have that player's number, like, you know, they're going to be playing Terradon. Like you can go ahead and pick a deck that doesn't lose to Terradon, right?
I don't know which deck that is because Terradon is like a middle of the road deck. It could beat
it's like
by anything.
Well, Grotog just smushes Terradon, but
well, the last Bearded tournament, the top 4 is just 3 of the top 4 was just our car. So, and I knew that I was a dog to SWB. So
yeah,
what
I
are
mean,
you gonna do?
well, no, you didn't know that you were playing. Well, you were playing Elves against Enchantress.
He had beaten me earlier in the week.
I mean,
So-
okay, so
maybe go ahead.
so to answer your question, you need to make the decision that maximizes on the axis that's important to you. There is a gigantic subset of players, probably a majority, that are trying to maximize for enjoyment, and as a result, they're not going to spend time learning how to play mono blue Dreadnought only for it to like make them miserable all day. And granted, they might not have like the skill set that lends itself to playing a deck like that. That's actually similar advice I would give to myself. Like we've mentioned on this podcast, we all have finite time, and your ability to like, you know, pivot from being a survival opposition player into being a replenish player in like the 3 weeks that you have to prep for the tournament, when you have to like take care of your family and run errands and do your job. It's like, it's just not going to happen. Just play your one trick deck. So it's weird in the context of pre-modern. If there was a pre-modern RC, I would say that you would just have to test. You would have to play games against yourself. You would have to like really understand what your plan is and what your opponents are doing. And at that point, like, deck selection is just an educated guess that you just reinforce with rigorous preparation.
Yeah, well, right. Let me ask a concrete example. Let's say you are, you know, it's the weeks leading up to Sacred Torch, and you're Phil Wynn and have everyone's deck list 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
You know everything that, like, you know what the field's going to look like. What deck are you choosing for that tournament?
Phil Wynn's going to play like Raging Glaciers. Or False Cure combo.
Yeah.
Okay, Phil leaked all the deck lists to Lanny. What is Lanny?
Oh.
Or what is Michael? trying to play for sake. Basically,
So the one
looking
step
back at
further is
Trigger
just
Strike
like
right now, you see every deck
yeah.
You see the whole meta. What would you play for that event?
Right, because the next step is just like, okay, well, why isn't the process just make an educated guess out of like what you expect to be at the event, what you expect to be at the top tables, and then choose your deck based on that. That is what I do, right?
I would have probably seen Packers deck and copied it because that deck is sweet.
But like, is a deck sweet? Like, do you think it's good for the meta? Like, how does it play towards like your like, I'm probably not going to play Burn ever, even if it's the best deck for
yeah. I could play.
Right?
I have Burn in my arsenal, right? So I have to I do have to choose from an arsenal. So your question narrows down to a little bit of like, how did you make your deck choice to like blend all of the things that we've talked about together and reach your final form, your final
and like
choice.
how are you adapting your deck for that meta?
Okay. Absolutely.
I would
like,
not known about all the Terravor decks, like that so many Terravor decks were going to do well. But I can tell you, I play tested with a bunch of the Duress Crew guys the night before, and those guys just seem to have 150 different Oath of Druids decks and Terravor decks. Like, they had like all different kind of Oath of Druids decks. Like, they all did like, this is the Gamekeeper Oath of Druids deck. This one has Visara the Dreadful. Like, and their decks were all assembled. Like, they weren't like moving Oath of Druids from one deck to another.
Yeah, no, they just all had 20 copies of Oath of Druids and 20 copies of Terravor.
Every member of the Dress Crew that was present just had like 3 different Oath of Druids and or Terravor decks.
Yeah, it's a Venn diagram where it's like Terravor Oath or Terravor Oath.
And I'm like, is this only kind of decks you guys play? So I just wanted to get like a flavor of like decks other than what I had in my bag, and like I did. If you were interested in playing against Gamekeeper Oath of Druids, they had you. If you wanted to have an Oath come up and make a Visara, they got you.
So I would answer your question in a couple ways. Like, one, I think that you should play lots of pre-modern, and you should play a number of decks in pre-modern and understand where they fit in the metagame to help you make those decisions, right? So one thing that comes up often is like, you've got the data Duress Crew project, and this is something that, you know, even David Raska these days is using to sort of guide, you know, his decision making. Is just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna like look at a few decks I think that are gonna be there. So you go and you're like, well, let's say the metagame has lots of Enchantress and Terrageddon. Then you would just go and see what decks beat Enchantress and Terrageddon, and then you kind of select from those. But if there's like a column that you're like, I disagree with this, that's where your knowledge comes into play, right? So for instance, if you think that Elves no longer beats Enchantress, then you would have to maybe take it off the docket. If you think that Elves no longer beats Terrageddon because the metagame has evolved towards Volcanic Spray, then you have to take Elves off the table. There's one square here that's Psychotog is 78% against Replenish, and I don't think that's true. Like, I think that I tend to beat Psychotog with my Replenish deck in much the same way that I beat Dreadnought decks by removing their 1 kill condition because they give me a 1-turn heads up that they're trying to kill me.
Wait, so I'm looking at data to DuressCrew.com. Terrageddon is like an 85, almost 86% favorite against land still. I would have never guessed that.
I mean, the deck is like designed.
The Weather Wayfarer is kind of amazing against land.
Like,
okay. I get it.
And then the Armageddon.
I just would never guess that.
And then Rishadan Port is really good. So you have like Wasteland.
Yeah,
Rishadan
you tap them out of their blue sources, and then you could Armageddon.
Oh, you have blue sources. That's generous. They tend to have a blue source at any given point in time. Like maybe up to 2, so you can.
They're badly disadvantaged against Survival Rock. Wait, oh man,
who's badly disadvantaged against Survival Rock?
Terrageddon. I'm not playing stupid Survival Rock.
Yeah, I mean Terrageddon doesn't perform well against survival decks, but you know that's why Oath Spec exists. And so,
so Lanny, what deck do you think you would play?
Okay, so literally, I think that if I knew that it was like a lot of Oath Spec, Terravor, and like weirdly not a lot of Dreadnought, I would play, drum roll, Grotog. I would play.
Then how would you? I would play
No, I wouldn't play Elves because there's like 3 Oath spec players, right?
Yeah, but
In
like,
addition to
And
Enchantress
Oath Panza players.
and
And
Enchantress and Oath Pawns.
of the data that's here, right? They just have Red Green Oath as a 55-45 favorite against Elves, but like it crushes Dreadnought and it crushes Terrageddon.
I'm pretty sure I just play Replenish again. Like Replenish is great against the Oath spec deck. It's great against Enchantress.
and then also outside of just looking at the matchup spread, like you could potentially make your Elves deck better in that matchup, or
Yeah.
you could do some sideboarding stuff.
In exactly this case of like Elves versus the Oath Cataclysm Volcanic Spray deck with unlimited access to most of those cards, like no. But in the case of like Enchantress, of course you can re-tech your Elves deck. Like in my match against Enchantress, like I had my Elves deck that was teched with a bunch of red cards, right? So I had to play Karplusan Forest. I lost the game with a Priest of Titania in play, a Quirion Ranger in play, but my one land was Karplusan Forest. The same thing actually happened to Ryan Fisher, where he lost the game because his brush land couldn't get picked up to Quirion Ranger to set up his big kill turn. But like I was, I have the biorhythm technology. I just didn't have biorhythm and like no Karplusan Forest. And so I can make an Elves deck that does great against Enchantress. And you're absolutely right. If I know that Enchantress is one of my targets, then I'm going to adapt my Elves deck more in that direction and away from Goblins. But to answer your literal question, I think Replenish was a superb choice for this tournament, especially with the adaptation of having lots of basic lands that cannot be wastelanded. And I guess, even though I think they're stinky doo-doo garbage, playing some number of counter spells as a contingency plan against the card Cataclysm or Armageddon. But like, if you're telling me that it's all Oath or Oath, like variants of Oath, and then like, a Dreadnought deck or some random control decks, like, my Replenish deck that has basic lands, lots of Orm's Chant Abeyance action, feels like it's going to do well.
I love Replenish.
In addition to having buys against nearly buys against Enchantress and Elves. Elves being like depending on the Elves deck, but like.
Oh my God, the Rock 85% matchup.
All right, Mike, please don't turn this into you just looking at a website and raw reactions
and saying numbers
to random numbers.
But yeah, I think because part of the reason why this discussion was like, how do you change the decks to meet the certain meta? And I think if I weren't memeing for that tournament, I would have played the 75 I gave Billy, and I think it was very well tuned for that meta.
Right,
with having a bunch of dominates and essence flares.
Absolutely,
it loses points against burn, but it gets a lot of points against green matchups, and actually turns the Elves. I don't think it makes the Elves matchup favorable, but
it makes it playable.
It makes post board games pretty good.
Yeah,
but it doesn't lose that much against burn. I mean, Essence Flare is basically Hydroblast against a lot of Burn's openers.
Yeah, but it's like Hydroblast, but take 2 damage if there's a Grim Lavamancer.
You can't Hydroblast a Ball Lightning.
A Ball Lightning, yeah.
Yeah, and the card that you don't have anymore is Chill, which is really amazing.
Well, I still have Chill. I just have fewer chills. I have 2 chills.
Okay, you have 2 chills, right? So you're cutting in. Yeah, I think that's an astute observation. You basically have this teched out blue tide deck. Some of your natural predators in the form of Elves or Survival Rock are not there. You're pretty confident in the Terrageddon
Burn
matchup.
Is not there, really.
Burn's not there, yeah.
At the event.
You're more confident in your Terrageddon matchup thanks to your adaptations.
Enchantress is still not good, but hopefully fade that, and you still have some game against it. And the Essence Flares help out with the Xantid Swarms, which is a big problem post board.
I think Mike and I are in a don't try to dodge any specific matchup world, because we're a little bit less bloodthirsty and a little bit more I'm gonna win through being a great Magic player, and I don't want to have these 0%ers, but mathematically it is correct to play decks with more polar ranges.
I like to play in big tournaments, right? $1,000 tournaments. I like to play decks that are maybe could be mid ranges, but also can be combo decks. So Burn and Elves are good examples of decks that I like to play.
Yeah, I mean,
you should play Terrageddon.
Burn, you're kind of always in it. like even against Dreadnought, like you
You
can
can win the roll.
you have a choice, you know. Even against Enchantress, you kind of can just get them.
I beat 2 Enchantress decks in the volleyball 1K. That's the
So you know, these are all definitely things that go into the decision making. I think that my Replenish deck basically had that. I think it was pretty weak against Blue White Tide, which is the deck that handed me my second loss. But I wasn't really thinking that fading Blue White Tide is different than fading Enchantress, right? Because Enchantress has such a high profile right now. And Blue White Tide has a higher profile than it's ever had, but it's still.
Well, and you probably had some confidence that SWB was going to play, or someone that you're scared of is going to play Enchantress.
Yeah. I mean, to be clear, I personally don't fear SWB as much as some other people on this call.
That's because you just don't show up to events.
I simply choose not to.
You would learn your lesson by now. Just so you know. I also didn't fear SWB at some point.
Well, no, because it was so funny because SWB was just like, you're saying all this stuff. You like completely forgot about like all those times that you just like beat me. And I was just like, yes, he can believe.
Funny.
He can.
I was just like, oh man, I never beat him. And he's just like, you literally beat me to win a brewery meetup last year. And it was like in November. And I'm like, oh yeah.
It's like, it's just,
I did win that one. Okay, but he's beaten me so many times. I kept concussed.
It's
and
like
I can't remember the events that I won.
It's so nice of him that he like lives rent free in our heads, and he just like, you know, he just shows up with cash anyways, and he's like, I would be willing to compensate you for living rent free in your mind, right? I don't have to be living rent free, but in any case, yeah, the metagaming thing I think is just like it. The real answer is maximizing equity, and I think that in many ways, like we talk ourselves out of making the pure right decision pretty often. I think maybe your thought about your Tide deck, despite the fact that you have extreme bias for Tide, which I understand because I too enjoy a deck that like I think wins like a lot more than, you know,
than the data shows.
Absolutely. Right. And like my resulting, like, it makes it really hard for me to be just like, okay, well, like,
I'm not saying, I don't know if Tide would be the best call for that event. I don't mean to say that. I'm just saying like the changes the combination of like, I think it's a good call for the event because there's all these like oath decks. That tend to be fairly good matchups, and then like, like based off of the matchup, like the metagame spread, I think it's a fairly good deck. It's a deck that I know how to play well, and then I'm tuning it in a way that beats what I expect the meta to be.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thought exercise because like you can kind of say like, oh, like your Tide deck would have performed well against Dreadnought, Junk Oath, Oath Spec, Terradon, Landstill, Replenish, and you know, you can name all the decks in the top 8, but like the top 8 isn't the metagame, but it is like the winner's metagame, but it's just kind of like it's a hard thing to calculate.
But then the rest of the metagame, there's like several goblins I think it can do well against.
Yeah,
there's more of these same decks.
I think it's a really hard.
Psychotog purports to be a 50% deck if I just look at this website that I'm not supposed to just reference, but it seems to me like it's just an excellent deck to play in New York. Like, it's awesome against the decks that people play.
I will tell you that there is like a interesting nugget of wisdom where on making some base assumptions about like the winner's metagame, Psychotog is the Nash meta equilibrium highest represented deck.
Highest represented or highest earning?
Everyone earns the same in a Nash equilibrium, Mike. So it is the highest representation with everyone having an expectation of 50%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, you know, that is to say, if it is like under represented, then I guess you're out of equilibrium, and, you know, maybe those, those fewer Psychotog players are eating less until they reach equilibrium. But the way that it gets there is like, if you take a look at the decks that win, Psychotog is actually pretty good against the decks that win. It's kind of like a good safety valve that could potentially bring things into equilibrium. But one of the weirder things is that like Dreadnought and Enchantress are literally not present in the Nash. The big asterisk here is that, of course, the duress crew data and the underlying assumptions used to make this Nash equilibrium are nowhere near robust enough for you to draw concrete conclusions. But it is a fun and interesting fact that if all of the duress crew data was predictive and the meta was comprised of only the decks on that chart, Psychotog would be the most represented deck in that. I just saw A Beautiful Mind because my wife and I are watching all the Academy Award winning films of this century, and I just love that scene where he's just like, we shouldn't go for the blonde. And the blonde in this case, I guess, is Phyrexian Dreadnought. In any case, we're 1 hour and 40 minutes in. Do we want to unleash another topic on this audience, or should we save it for a future time?
Sure, I'm fine now. Whatever.
I don't even know. Like, okay, I mean, let's close the loop on metagaming. The process for metagaming should start much like long before the event is announced. Like, I think the reason why I don't think metagaming is particularly interesting is because you are able to create more edge through like preparation and like reading trends and playing in an exploitative manner, rather than trying to play in a game theory equilibrium trying to exploit I'll just.
What you're saying is like that's deck choice. It's not like all that goes into metagaming.
Yeah, I'll put it in plain terms, right? Is just like, once you reach like it is much harder for you to be like, I think that there's going to be less red and more oath, right? It's much harder for you to make that assumption, adjust to that assumption in a way that lets you exploit that prediction, which might be incorrect, and then once you're at the tournament, hit those matchups anyways, right? Because like, even if you're just like, oh, there's not going to be that many red decks, I'm just not going to bring much blue blast, and then you can still get paired against 2 red decks and lose to both of them.
So
the thing that you can
pause
do
you for a second. I used to be so hip into metagaming. Like, metagaming is the main way to get edge, right? And play in an exploitative manner. I spent years writing about how you should always do this, and this was how you get the most edge. And I learned this from John. And the problem is, if you're John, maybe that's true. But like, I just look at my own recent performance, and I've lost more to playing badly and making mistakes than I think I have at, not ever, right? I was like pretty bad early in my career or whatever, but like, I just made infinity mistakes in like all like the last recent big tournaments that I played in part because I was playing decks that I had no experience with. So I'm just coming in, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to like play this deck at a high level, and no, I'm not. I got my mana wrong a bunch. Yeah. And like just small things, like I played the wrong land, or oh shoot, I took a dreadnought hit and didn't calculate that I was going to take so much ancient tomb damage, you know, like
I'm gonna stop you there. Like, accuracy is table stakes, right? Like that's
yeah, but I'm just saying, like, people, I think that is a limit on the metagaming.
That is, and I absolutely agree. But the problem is, the solution for that problem is it's a little bit tricky because, again, finite time, right? So if you only have time to play one deck perfectly, then you should just be like Mike and just like, you're just great at burn, and then everything else you're just like C+, right? But if you aspire to a level above Mike, and you, the listener, yes, you right now, you can accomplish it. I have seen it done. You can perform better than Michael J. Flores at your local pre-modern tournament if you just apply
Play
yourself.
Dreadnought instead of Burn. It's a higher ceiling deck.
But no, the thing that you're saying is just like, okay, you should play well. Well, no matter what deck you choose, you should play well. But the point that I'm trying to make, and your point stands here because metagaming, the amount of edge that you gain from metagaming is probably in the sub like 5% influence, right? So inaccurate play can make you lose 30 points, right? As far as gaining points, in the context of pre-modern, you can gain a nearly insurmountable average. Like, let's make sure you have the mechanics, make sure like, you know, you're not just like having fun out there and like just brewing decks that you like the aesthetics of, or you're interested in seeing, you're interested in the doing thing. You know, we're talking about tournaments here. They do take discipline, but I think that if you look at the Enchantress deck, or you look at the Dr. Surf and Surf deck, like these are decks that the changes and the preparation that went into making them, even though the Enchantress one was like much shorter, like there's no Bible, there's no like testing against yourself level stuff.
Innovation.
It's still exactly. It's
absolutely
like it clearly took Enchantress, which was maybe well positioned, right? Like Enchantress might have been positioned like if you took like a snapshot of pre-innovated Enchantress, maybe it was a deck that's like kind of in the mix, right? Where you're expecting
underrated.
You're
underrated.
Yeah, you're expecting Dreadnought and Replenish to be like really good decks, right? And then Enchantress is like pretty good, but then you take this deck and you're like, okay, well, its expectancy into the overall field is like maybe 57% with accurate play, whereas like Dreadnought is like 60% with accurate play. You know, and all of the player edge, all of these nice things, and then like, you know, your matchup draw can still get you.
To be fair, Dreadnought's also a lot easier to play to at 60% than Enchantress is.
Again, we're assuming accuracy here. By innovating your deck, by making some really good adjustments to like make your deck better and make the way that your deck plays against the cards and the archetypes that you expect, and just like and also adding a little bit of an unexpected element to it, like you can gain, you know, double-digit percentages in edge, right? Like your win expectation can go, like you can sit there and you can be like, I've got a good Terrageddon 75. I'm just going to practice this, and it's the perfect time for me to play Terrageddon. You're like, great. You just pulled on your win rate from like 55 to 58 by putting in all that work, when you could have just blown up the entire metagame and revolutionized it by just like making some astute observations, by being like, oh, first I'm gonna like, I've got this Miri's Guile thing. First, I've got, like, why are we playing 3 Serra Sanctum? Let's play 4. Why are we playing 2 Parallax Wave? Let's play 3. Why are we not like, why we didn't actually have to cut Exploration from this deck? We don't have to play Elephant Grass. We do want to play Swords of Plowshares. Heck, let's just play a Sylvan Library because we love Miri's Guile so much. Like, every one of these like decisions are capable of producing, you know, in aggregate double-digit percentage increases. And I think that Land pointed that out to me. He was just like, well, you play this Grotog deck, but like you change it every single time that you play. Like you take Days out, you put Days back in, you put Call the Herds in there, you take the Call the Herds out. Like sometimes you have Armageddon, sometimes you don't. Like, you know, those things, like they're not immaterial. And when you live in like a solved format like Standard, and there's like 1,000 people and they behave like, you know,
and 100% of them play Is It.
Yeah, they just like,
so in the Pro Tour that was on Magic Online last week, or Magic Arena, 57% of people played Is It. The number 2 deck was 3%.
Yeah, exactly.
That's insanity.
Right. And so like that's not the world we live in with pre-modern.
No, thank God.
And as a result,
57-3.
Like you should be, I mean, like even something very subtle, like, you know, Kaplan. I mean, Kaplan is probably the best representation of like a hedgehog in this environment, right? Where he just plays Dreadnought, but he still has tried everything. I dunked on Mike because I was just like, I've got way more Dreadnought reps than you. I've got way more Blue-White Dreadnought reps than you. I've got like, and I'm one of the only people in the world that has tons of mono blue Dreadnought reps and tons of blue white Dreadnought reps and a good number of ridiculous other Dreadnought brew reps. The only person who's played more mono blue and blue white Dreadnought than me is probably Dave Kaplan, right? Like, because he just plays Dreadnought. But same thing, right? Same thing with myself and Grotog with maybe a higher caliber deck is just like he changes things. He's like, you know, he's taking advantage of the fact that people don't know if they're going to get tided. They don't know that he's going to give them an Essence Flare. He could surprise them with a Sabo's Web or a Phyrexian Furnace. Like, all of these things on a given day of a tournament give you much more edge, and they are far, far more exploitative than being like, ugh, not a lot of red decks, so I guess it's time to play mono black, right? Because who knows, like, it can be good if your mono black deck is like super tested and tuned and you give somebody a look that they've never seen before. I mean, again, shout out Grantfly, like he won Magic Online. Shout out to all the guys in Madison who are winning with their black decks. Like, you're capable of doing that, but it is not so simple as metagaming, or rather metagaming is something that can help you improve your edge in a very small way, but like improving your edge in a gigantic way by either doing revolutionary innovation in the form of Dreadnought or Enchantress, or even like incremental innovation in terms of like Dave Kaplan and his Dreadnought list, you know, are also important, because that's kind of where your bread gets buttered. Like, you can sit there, you look at the chart, and you're just like, oh, like burn is 50% against goblins, but I've got the secret. And if burn is like 90% against goblins, and it's actually 60% against enchantress, and it's actually, you know, or maybe it's 55% against enchantress, and it's actually 55% against dreadnought, all of a sudden burn starts looking less like, you know, a bad deck and starts looking like a good one, because you're just like, like, you know, I've got technology, I've got earthquake, I've got Mishra's Factory, I've got pyrostatic pillar, God knows what. I'm not saying all those things work, but they certainly have the potential to. That's my rant on X-Men. I mean, the most important thing here, and this comes a little bit from poker, is that in poker there is the concept of playing game theory optimal, and there's the concept of playing exploitatively, and the object of poker is to win the most amount of money, and in order to like accomplish that, playing exploitatively is always going to pay you more, assuming that you're good, you're sharp enough to make the correct assumptions about your opponent, right? So game theory optimal is really about not giving your opponent any edge, but it's and granted, if you're a computer, the simulation would adjust to opponents, but like exploitative play is all about capturing the max amount of edge that you have against specific opponents. And I think that pre-modern is just a really exciting environment, because you know, it's so far from being solved. It's so far from being in a state where you just know all the decks, you know all the cards in all the decks. We're getting closer to there, the pre-conification and whatnot, but we're still very far from any kind of state where you're going to sit down and you're like, oh, I know this matchup. I've played this matchup before. I know exactly what the script is. And like my percentage was decided before I sat down, and like that's when the metagaming part becomes important, when all the decks are super pre-conified, and then you're like, okay, well now I just have to give myself the best shot at winning. And I was
laughing at your. Sorry, go ahead.
I think I think that you could probably pull this off in Modern Legacy or Vintage, possibly. Like, it's going to be harder, but I don't think it's impossible. Standard, it sounds
Pauper?
like.
Pauper is on the brain, just no reason.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's going to be like a Pauper 4K or whatever in New York.
We have the new team trios.
There's going to be team trios, Pauper, pre-modern, and
Legacy. But you're not Pauper, Pike.
What am I going to be?
Pre-modern.
Dude, we're better off if you're playing pre-modern.
Then Legacy. Okay, fine. We'll figure it out.
I played Legacy last time.
Well,
you see how that went.
Mike can play Pauper because there's a Pauper burn deck, and it's like
okay. We could put Dan at Legacy.
Yeah, if burn is in the top tier of the format, you should probably put Michael J on burn.
So, I mean, I'm just going to watch a lot of Pauper videos. I think that's the best idea. 'Cause I did not do well for the team.
I mean, hear me out.
I'll start a text thread with Dan.
You could also play a lot of games of Pauper. I don't know if you've considered that. You could play a lot of matches.
Well, I was going to play a Pauper 2K, but instead I won a Pauper 1K, but then turned out there was a standard 2K.
On Magic Online, Pauper fires at all times.
Okay.
It's just like a league. So you can like boot up your Pauper deck probably for $5, or you can use Mana Trader's promo code Lanini, and
learn how to play Pauper.
Yeah, and learn. It wouldn't be that hard.
I was just gonna watch Mangu's channel.
Like, I got great news for you. Lightning Bolt is a card in Pauper.
Yeah, I was thinking about playing like one of these like decks that have like Tithing Blade and like a lot of bouncing things, a lot of incremental card advantage.
I mean, it's possible that Burn has rotated out of Pauper. I know that like there is an element of it looks like, well, it says Burn is the third or the fourth most popular deck, but it's basically like, what is this? Kessig Flame Breather. Oh yeah, it's like a
if you're checking Goldfish, there's 2 different Burn decks in the meta.
Okay. Regardless,
like the same deck.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can't, right? You don't have enough time, but a Pauper player, I think, could break Pauper, and a Pauper gets broken all the time because they just keep on printing like broken commons or like downshifting like random stuff to common. But yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much wraps it for us, I think.
Well, I had one thing that might shock the viewers that you reminded me of, Lanny, with your poker analogy. So when the dress crew came for Sacred Torch, they were messaging me before, and I was like, what do you guys want to do Friday? Because they were coming like the night before, like we could do some Vintage Cube, get some people over. And they were, Brandon was like, we got like a poker game going, and I was like, sure, but none of us play poker. And then they were like, oh, Lanny talks about it all the time. Like, I assume that you all like have poker matches, and we were like,
nope,
we have never played poker with each other ever.
There's like nothing that I want more than to like get everybody into poker, and not for sinister reasons. I actually want to see what happens when someone like yourself or SWB picks up poker and like learns it through playing, because I would be really interested in kind of seeing what results from that, because you guys might, I don't know, adopt your own play styles and like just do stuff that's interesting, right? Because I kind of, I've learned about it just through like YouTube and whatever, reading some.
Andy, I just clicked the 2 different Goldfish Burn decks on 2 different links on 2 different dates. They're the same deck.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
They're like literally the same deck. It's 2 different.
It's a big meta share because it's the same deck.
So.
Oh, it's
categorized in
one is categorized as Madness Burn, one is categorized as Burn, but they're the same deck.
Right. So
the same cards.
The sample is 71 plus 54 versus the mono blue deck is 101. So Burn is 1.5 times more represented than the next most, which is literally Delver.
The difference between these 2 decks, which are 2 different archetypes, both in the top 5, one has 2 Faithless Looting and 2 Chain Lightning. The other has 4 Faithless Looting. That is the only difference between the 2 decks. By the way, I don't know why these decks have 3 Fire Blast. I think maybe we could improve on that.
That was something that we were joking about in the coffee Discord. Yeah, if you want to get a poker game going in the New York metropolitan area, I probably can't join because my nights are busy. But yeah, there's nothing I would like more than to get a game going. We can just play, silly stakes. We can just play $20 or whatever. But that would be fun. Unfortunately, you do have to kind of make it hurt, or else you guys just turn into a bunch of maniacs and just go all in every hand, because you just be like, I don't fucking care. It's $20.
Oh man, I used to watch
you guys play, and that was the biggest in New York.
What's that?
There needs to be a belt.
Oh yeah, a poker belt.
Any money?
Then we have to play tournament and not cash, and tournament is just like a little bit too layered.
No, but like that's the problem. Is I remember I think like Turian and Heist are cousins, right? And like because they were only playing for 20, Heist would just go crazy. It just didn't matter. And then everyone else was mad that he was just playing wild.
Yeah.
You know? It's like whatever. It's $20.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. He's like, I can do this all night.
Yeah,
You
like,
know?
all in.
Yeah.
I want to suck out, right? Like, yeah, well, it was $20.
Yeah.
2-7 got you.
And you do have to stake something that scales linearly if you want to play cash. You can of course just be like, okay, we'll just play a ring game, and then whoever ends up with all the chips gets the belt. But cash is kind of more fundamental or just more interesting.
That's the only way you can play, right? I used to play for chips with my kids, and they get mad when I raise. Like,
why are you raising? That's not nice. We can't see everybody's cards.
That's actually really funny because okay, I love a poker tangent, so I guess we'll keep talking. It actually blows my mind that so a little bit of terminology. Poker is a game that's played with betting. You bet if you have a strong hand, and your bet can get
or you bet.
Yeah, or you bet.
You don't
right?
have a strong hand,
and your opponent can call, raise, or fold.
And you can call if you have a strong hand. Or you can
and
call
so
if you don't have a strong
I
hand.
guess in the old days, like the betting round would be like one in the old days people played limit instead of no limit. That's like a whole nother thing. But I guess in like the early days, if you had the blind bet, and then the next bet is or the next raise is just called a raise. The next raise after the raise first in is a 3-bet, and apparently people never 3-bet in like the old days. Like if you got dealt your 2 cards and you're like, cool, I raise, it was just like call or fold all the way around, and nobody like there had to be somebody who like was just like, I will re-raise, and like everyone's just looking at, they're like, what the fuck are you doing? You can't re-raise. I'm just like, that just like kills me. But it's like, but it's funny because of exactly what you're saying with your kids. Like people hate it when you raise. Like,
well, they want everyone to be a calling station.
yeah, they're like, I just want to,
and nobody folds.
they're just like, I just want to play roulette.
Just call.
I just want to see more cards. That's actually how I made my first $1,000 in Vegas was like basically that of just like people just like didn't put chips into the pot. And so I like showed up to Vegas and I was just like, poker's easy. Like put chips in the middle and they just call. But this was like the 1-2 game like on a Friday night with like a bunch of
retirees is the word we use.
No, the retirees were just a bunch of nits, right? So they just folded. But like, you know, some people were splashy and they would just be like, oh yeah, you know, whatever.
Oh, so they were donating to Lanny's rent.
They were literally donating. Yeah. There was hands where I'm like bluffing with like middle pair and they call me off with like ace high. And I just like, I was trying to get you off like 2 pair with this raise. And instead you just called with nothing. I'm just like, man,
right,
poker is easy.
All right, listen, as much as everybody wants to hear about fucking poker, I went to the Wegmans that was right by Andy's house today because I just got back from the Schmamptons this morning. I've been gone for 2 weeks, missed league. And Rich will be happy to know that I just basically eat nothing but Wegmans hummus and and no carb bread when I'm home now. Yeah. But I bought this thing called garlic bread cheese that I guess is garlic bread, but it's just made of cheese, so it doesn't have any carbs. And I want to go make it and eat it. So,
all right,
this has been Spike Colony.
Love Spike Colony.
Also a poker podcast, guest starring Andy Levine.
Join us next week. We'll have
where I didn't play a league again, but it's because I have comedy tickets this week.
Fair enough.
I'll be at league this week.
All right, so Andy will probably win again. This is great play
by
Andy because SWB and I skipped last week and this week. So we were in 1-2, and we are not going to be in 1-2.
I mean, this was my first league of this season.
Yeah, but he was first, I was second, and like separated by a point or something. But both of us skipped 2 weeks in a row, so it's gonna shake up the standings.
I love that. Hype to see how it all shakes out. Hex & Co., Jen the Judge, you are too good to us. if you ever find yourself in the New York area, people, I mean, this has been a godsend because a lot of people are just like, hey, I'm coming through New York. What's going on? And normally they'd have to get lucky and see if the monthly meetup would hit them in their date range. And now if you just come to New York and it's a Thursday night, you can play Pre-Modern.
And everybody shows up.
And it's at Union Square. It is accessible by every train line and Jersey. So, yeah.
And the teeth come out every week. That's the other thing. Land made the observation. It's like nobody plays joke decks at League.
Yeah.
Like
I what?
All right.
Andy
plays joke decks at League and still 3 outs.
No, this wasn't a joke deck week. But
No, who plays joke decks?
no, I was saying I didn't play a joke deck this week, but
I'm just
the
saying,
rest of the time you've been playing joke decks like
in general,
Terradon.
playing, joke things.
Oh, I guess you're exploring your I'm just gonna make my mono blue deck that is the hybridization of all the ways to beat other mono blue decks, but no actual way to win. Like
Well, yeah,
I guess
I was playing a meme version of that with the sideboard Dream Holes plan.
Okay. I actually will cut this deal with you, Andy. The next tournament, I will play Tide, but you have to play a real deck. I think at the next 2 tournaments.
I'll play whatever you want.
I think if Andy just only played Dreadnought all the time like Kaplan, it would be a solved format.
I just
like that. That's what I think would happen.
All I want you to do is just okay, we'll make it a 1 tournament deal. The next big tournament that we both play, I will play Mono Blue Tide Control, and you will play the most try hardest deck that you can possibly try hard with, and you will be super prepared, and you'll just try super hard.
What is that?
Pretty
Replenish?
sure. I mean,
Replenish
if
is the highest drawing deck, right?
If it's Replenish, then great. If it's some other deck, card accessibility is not an issue. So whatever it is, I just want you to set everything aside except for winning, and just do that, because it's just like benching LeBron here, with Andy he was fucking around, swapped personalities with Billy, and then top 4'd the tournament. It's just what happens if you try?
All right, here's the thing that's really bothersome to me. I played so many Midnight Hunt and Innistrad or whatever drafts, and I don't know if I own Forecasting Flame Breathers. Because I just didn't take them home. They probably were just in the trash at the end of the night.
Yeah, they're in the donation pile.
But this deck, I'm just not going to play Sneaky Snacker. This card looks stupid.
Oh,
what are you talking about? The free 2/1 that free 2/1 off Faithless Looting?
Yeah, but why don't I just play Chain Lightning in the 4th Fire Blast?
Well, then you just cut Faithless Looting from your deck, a 2/1
no,
flyer.
there's other payoffs from Faithless Looting.
The 2/1 flyer.
Fire Temper's not an exciting payoff.
The 2/1 flyer that comes back every time is getting in for 15, which is weird because it's got 2 power. But trust me, it's getting in for 15.
Okay, so you think I should?
Without it, there's not enough disc. You have Faithless. You have so many discard cards in this deck, and the only payoff at that point is Fiery Temper.
So this deck is very intuitive to me.
Lovable,
I own most of the deck.
Mike,
I just have to remember to trigger my Gutter Snipe.
I'm just telling you that there is no way that Sneaky Snacker is just
not good.
It's just amazing. When I first saw that card in a Pauper deck list, my brain exploded. I was just Jackal Pup unblockable never dies? What?
All right, you sold me.
Yeah, I'm
fine.
Also, I don't think this deck can do it, but it can trigger on your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any way.
You're right. These are all sorceries.
Yeah.
There are instant speed versions of these cards.
Flashback Faithless Looting is disgusting, first of all, in a deck that doesn't want to draw more than 2 mountains. And then you also get your 2/1 back. It's just kind of, I don't know. I was playing a version of this deck when it was madnessing out that 3/3 vampire that also costs 3 if you hard cast it or something. I don't know, just complete nonsense.
I'm confident that I could just program myself to not miss my Gutter Snipe trigger. If I don't miss the Gutter Snipe trigger, we're in the top 4.
All right,
okay,
we'll be back.
Okay, so do this could be a try-hard tournament then, because if I'm the pre-modern seat.
No, we're gonna win. We're gonna do one better than last time.
No, that's what I'm saying for Lanny's bet.
We have to both be playing in the tournament.
You're not going to play?
Okay.
It sounds like you guys already teamed up without me.
You could get another team.
I know.
There's like 20 other people who want to play.
Yeah, then I have to play Tide Control in a team tournament? That's like a little awkward.
Look at him folding already.
It has to be a pre-modern tournament.
All right, well.
Because like Andy Levine could like 10-0 the pre-modern seed and it won't matter because
just so you know, there's going to be 31 other pre-modern players because it's gonna cap at 32. So
I'm just telling you that
No, it caps at 40 something.
so there's going to be 39 other
I'm telling you that
pre-modern
Andy can win every single match and he can still lose the tournament. I just want to watch him.
No. I'm not going to miss my gutter
stomp.
snipe trigger. Just so you know.
No.
That is the limiting factor.
I am not tying like
portion.
I don't know what the LeBron. I don't know if it's like the guy who like missed the free throw. I don't want to see what happens.
That's J.R. Smith.
Yeah, I don't want J.R. Smith, LeBron.
Thanks for digging it up.
I
asshole.
want like LeBron. I want LeBron on the Heat, right? Like I just like want the LeBron super team. Like yeah.
Oh, we don't have detail this time. He's busy that day.
Oh, that's unlucky. I'm sure everybody's like
matches this time.
I'm sure everybody's like breaking down Bill's door. The big,
that
Bill
team is
can't go.
already built.
oh damn.
No, Bill can't go.
What? I thought it was Bill
Yeah.
SWB.
It was, but Bill can't make it.
Oh my god.
I talked to because I played against Bill in League this week.
Oh, so who's their third now?
Cass? I don't know Cass.
Cass won the Pauper League.
Team tournaments are like I can't have other people depending on me. I would love to play a team tournament. I can't have other people depending on me to like mark it off on my calendar.
We can do the team limited.
Make sure
You
that
wanna
I
do
can
the three
go.
of us.
I'm not playing limited with Mike. I guess I can build his deck.
I top 12 the team limited Pro Tour once.
Shrug.
You should check out the limited the draft deck I posted.
I was top
It is
25
so
in
good.
limited multiple times in my career.
The
I don't know
problem is
why
that-
you're decrying my limited.
The problem is it's like retail limited, and I would like rather cube, but I could get out of bed for team limited because I've never really gotten a taste of that, so I think that would be really
I've never
fun.
done a team field. Yeah.
But
It's. I mean,
I don't know.
It's a very good format.
it's like me. Okay, what if it was like me, Etai, Andy Levine? That sounds like a good team.
So you get Etai? Speaking of which, the reason I'm not going to League this week is I'm going to a comedy show with Pog on Thursday.
Oh, budget Etai. Okay, got it.
So
October 5th is the team trios.
Whatever that weekend is.
whatever
yeah.
the week is.
Okay,
I'll make sure to not
it's
be
a
in the
Sunday.
Hamptons that day.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I guess everyone has a team.
I
So
don't think everyone has a team.
Not everyone has a team.
looking for well, it sounds like SWB. Well, his team might have gotten busted up, but like
No, that's his team.
the problem is all of my like I can't imagine a single person that I know that I would like want to subject to playing Legacy. Like that just sounds horrible. Like the other two people get to play pre-modern and Pauper all
you
day,
can find
and then
players.
like
Dude, people play Legacy. That's how we recruited half the guys into pre-modern. I mean, they don't play Legacy anymore, but
Yeah, that's the problem.
They're like, wow, I could do this instead.
it's like literally.
I don't know. I feel like Roland would be down to play Legacy.
It is literally the Squidward meme where he's like looking out the shutters and SpongeBob and Patrick get to play Pauper and pre-modern. Like
I don't know. I don't know,
literally-
Andy. SWB came from Legacy, and,
Yeah, I
and
came from
now he
Legacy.
doesn't play Legacy anymore.
Yeah, he's done. He's like.
But it's the weekend before EW, so I think you're gonna. It could be some good.
So
It
people
should
might
have just
wanna
been
gear
like
up.
it should have been $30 vintage, man.
Yeah.
I actually think it should have been standard. I mean,
No.
like, it's the standard.
You mean the
Full
least
pre-modern,
attended
modern.
format in the America's
Yeah,
largest
they-
city, America's most populous city?
Tournament with 6 registrations.
Yeah.
Wow.
You should
6
put a timestamp
registrations.
on this episode of when we start rambling about nonsense.
We
No,
got-
no.
We get
That- we have
24
never.
on Thursdays
We have
for no
basically
prize.
never done that, and our promise to our viewers is that we will not do that like you should kind of get the idea that nothing else of value.
Old school pre-modern modern would be great because it's just
I think
all
so,
the
too.
different card pools.
Yeah, I think so too.
Look at
I'm just not into Legacy. Who cares?
I've been drawing just sevens with my old school deck just now. Like, look at this hand. Look at how great, like, fun this is.
I would love. Yeah, I forgot that we were.
Scheherazade in there.
No.
Andy, are you leaking?
Andy won the old school one.
No, I'm not talking about that deck yet.
Okay, you're not talking about. Okay, that I wanted to make sure. I wanted to be sure if you were like.
So Andy won the the old school 1K last week, and those decks aren't published.
No, they don't publish old school decks.
Yeah, it's deck.
We'll talk about it after LobsterCon.
It's deck pick culture.
After Andy wins LobsterCon.
After he wins the effing shark. That's the deal. I guess you're kind of tryharding old school LobsterCon,
but also memeing.
Yeah, but you're doing
weird. It's interesting because his memeing has like a razor's edge to it.
An extremely high win percentage. Shout out to the dress crew. If you want a podcast that has some semblance of structure and is a great recap of what the Sacred Torch Showdown was like, don't tune into Spike Colony. Tune into the Hardcast. Their latest episode drop is all about saying nice things about Andy Levine and a couple of others of us getting a little bit of reflected shine. But Andy Levine is truly a magnanimous host.
I'm so grateful for. I mean, pre-modern is just such a great community to live in and stuff. It's so great.
Yeah, I mean, it's the dream.
And I just want to make sure everyone heard this, right? So there's a $2,000 standard tournament. It got 6 registrations, so it got canceled. The same store has like 36 for Pauper every week, and we get like 24 for pre-modern, and there's like no prize. So so like what?
Well, it is store credit. But yeah, it's like
basically.
Yeah, then you always forget to cash out.
Yeah, it's store credit that you forget to claim.
To cash out last week.
So it's in the 30s and 40s for Pauper and Limited there, and then it's pre-modern
20s to 30s.
is ahead of Legacy, and Standard is literally dead. So
but 6 registrations for a $2,000 standard tournament is insanity.
Yeah, I mean, long live pre-modern. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know, like, because part of me is like, if you could play pre-modern on Magic Arena, that would be great. But also, I guess that would solve the format way too freaking quick.
Oh no, that would be bad.
It'd just like it'd be horrible. And then
I just want to remind you, 53 to 57% is it? The number 2 deck was 3%.
Fine. I actually had something of value to add, which was that if you sold pre-modern on the shelf as like a board game, I think that you could play it forever. I think that you could play it for as long as we've been playing chess, for as long as we've been playing poker, as long as we've been playing.
Would you just sell the cards like duplicates?
No. I mean, it would be duplicate. Obviously, it wouldn't fit into a box, but I'm just saying theoretically, right?
No, I understand.
A lot of people.
You're not selling the decks.
Yeah. A lot of people think that pre-modern is going to get solved, and that kind of ruins it. And I'm just like, I think that if it was like exactly what you're saying, like a duplicate sealed, like you theoretically could just sell somebody a box of 2 identical play sets of every card legal in pre-modern, like that game would keep you entertained forever. And so I that's like, whenever somebody says anything about pre-modern being solved, that's how I'm taking a stand now. I'm just like, look, I think that, I'll still play, because I still play plenty of board games that have the same rules, the same pieces, and nothing ever changes, because it's just fun and awesome. And so
anyone who thinks the stupid things that you said that some people who've never played the format think, they weren't at Andy's house the Friday before Sacred Torch. That's the mic drop.
You can pull so many Terravor and Oath decks and Terravor and Oath decks out of that box.
There were a lot of fucking Terravor decks and Oath decks. Some had both.
Yeah. All right.
Look, these Boston people, this is insane.
Worcester, don't you dare call them Boston people.
God.
The Red Line Tree Folk will be knocking down our door.
They're wearing freaking Celtics jerseys on camera.
Oh, good point. You got them there. Yeah. There's nothing they could say to that.
I I played one of them. He was wearing a Celtics jersey during the match.
All right.
The end.
Love Spike Colony.
All right, thanks, Andy.
Uh,